Xiao Feng's will to survive, the medicine would be useless no matter how good it was. At this time, Xiao Feng heard the noise outside. He turned his head and looked with disgust. Is it that woman Dai Feng? What is she doing here again? I don't know. He said something inexplicable. He was probably afraid that I would pester Qin Ziren, so he tried to be a good guy and advised me to withdraw from the affair between Qin Ziren and Feng Xian. Huami shrugged and spoke very calmly. Fortunately, Dai Feng, this woman, had some brains, and now she no longer dared to say harsh words in front of Huami. Otherwise, you will be beaten again. Hearing this, Tang Yu and Xiao Feng looked at each other and exchanged a look that only they understood. Does this woman have any idea? Tang Yu said in a deep voice, Fenger, go outside and tell the brothers that Dai Feng is not a good person. Don't let her get close to Sister Hua again. It's disgusting that their boss's female friend is always being fantasized about returning to the arms of a scumbag. When Huami heard this, she said hurriedly, that's not necessary. Xiao Feng, you're still injured. If she comes again, just beat her. If she beats me a few more times, she won't dare to come again. But before she could finish her words, Xiao Feng ran out of the car at an extremely agile speed like a whirlwind. Soon, the entire rescue center's garrisons received the news. In order to prevent Dai Feng, the psychopath, from getting back in trouble and worrying about Sister Hua and the scumbag getting back together, every garrison had to keep their eyes wide open and keep a close watch on Dai Feng. As long as Dai Feng gets within 100 meters of Sister Hua, she will be intercepted by the garrison using various excuses, including Qin Ziren, who came to look for Huami. Qin Ziren didn't know what was going on. He wanted to find Huami, but as soon as he approached the RV, he was stopped by two guards. What are you doing? Why are you blocking me? Qin Ziren, who was wearing nothing on his face, had a blue complexion and was holding an umbrella in his hand. He looked at the two garrisons in front of him, wearing raincoats, colorful goggles, and respirators, and was furious. The management did not issue raincoats, and the umbrella in his hand was bought at a high price from the survivors by several of his managers. It's out of your own pocket. In the emergency room where the air conditioner had the dehumidifier function turned on, the feeling was not so obvious. As soon as he came out, Qin Ziren felt that breathing was becoming more and more difficult. If I had known this earlier, I would have asked Kaminghong for a few hundred respirators. Moreover, this continuous drizzle did not fall straight down, but was slanting and drizzling. The raindrops fell into the eyes, and it seemed that the eyes had a vague, itchy feeling. At this time, it would be nice to have a pair of goggles. In comparison, the equipment worn by the garrison on the opposite side is much better than the equipment he has in management and command. The two garrisons in front of us said in a harsh voice, we have received orders from above. You are an important person, and we cannot allow you to take risks outside. Please return to the emergency room immediately. Qin Ziren looked at the two garrisons coldly. Everyone knew that he was not a big shot. It was just that someone in the garrison did not want him to see Huami. He said angrily, I'm going to find my girlfriend. What right do you have to stop me? Get out of the way. How could the garrison here listen to him? Qin Ziren wanted to force his way in, but the fully armed garrison noticed his movement and directly drew their guns. Since Gong Yi was transferred to the Xiangqing Garrison Command, the ranks of Tang Yu and Xiao Feng also jumped. Now the levels of Tang Yu and Xiao Feng are higher than those of their grassroots garrisons. The orders of the two can directly mobilize the grassroots garrisons here. Don't think that Qin Ziren didn't know. In fact, he not only sent Dai Feng to monitor Huami's RV these days, but also sent several other grassroots managers to inquire at the rescue center. He probably pieced together a more complete picture of the facts. After Huami sold her ancestral home, she got some money and opened a supermarket, thus having a stable supply channel. Because of this, she and Gong Yi got together. Gong Yi seemed to have some interest in Huami, but he didn't say it clearly, and it looked like he was just playing around. After all, a man like him can have any woman he wants. Huami is at most just a little prettier and a little more capable than other women. But other than that, she doesn't look feminine at all and is pretty cold. Yes, Huami is ex-cold, and she is the main culprit for Qin Ziren's cheating. If Huami was not ex-cold, she would have let him sleep with her, and he would not be with Feng Xian. So putting himself in other people's shoes, Gong Yi might be somewhat interested in Huami at the beginning, But after a long time, he got tired of playing with this kind of big guy, and he was no longer interested in Huami. Before Gongi gets tired of playing, Qin Ziren can use the relationship between Huami and the garrison to do a lot of things. Facing the garrison's guns, Qin Ziren's expression changed several times. Finally, he bit his back teeth and stepped back. He no longer tried to force his way in, but retreated to the emergency area and found Daifang and Fang Xian. Facing the two women, Qin Ziren asked them to go find Huami. No matter what means, they must coax Huami back. Daifang's lips moved, and she looked at Fang Xian, who was about to cry beside her, as if she had something to say to Qin Ziren. But Fang Xian pulled at Daifang's clothes and shook her head at her. That look, both aggrieved and pitiful, made Daifang hate Huami even more. So even though Fang Xian didn't allow her to say it, Daifang still said to Qin Ziren, "Mr. Qin, Huami is not a good woman. Those garrisons helped her bully others. I always wanted to get closer to her and say something nice to her, but as soon as those garrisons saw me approaching the RV, they stopped me. This treatment is the same as Qin Ziren's." Then, Daifang hurriedly repeated Huami's original words about Qin Ziren being useless. But she didn't say that Huami asked her to be careful and stay away from Fang Xian. There is no need for that. This is just Huami's way of sowing discord. Why should we be careful and stay away from a friend as simple and kind as Xinshin? Qin Ziren had a head of greasy and wet short hair. His back turned to the two women, his fists clenched tightly. He didn't even know that Huami was telling everyone that he was good for nothing. This woman actually dared to look down on him. Then you guys go out of the rescue center to find her. I know she sometimes goes to drag the goods. You have to get along with her well. The garrison is full of barbarians. How can a woman like her hang out with those men? Qin Ziren gritted his teeth and gave instructions to the two women behind him. After he coaxed Huami back, and after he used the garrison to transport half of the medical supplies outside the city, he wanted Huami to kneel down and beg him. After hearing Qin Ziren's caring words about Huami, Fang Xian's tears fell even more violently. She looked at Daifang with a pair of even more pitiful eyes. Look, how heartbroken she is. She loves Brother Ziren so much, but Brother Ziren only cares about his sister. She retorted to Qin Ziren, she loves to be with those rough men and indulges herself. What can we do? Is it a bit dangerous to leave the rescue center now just to find her to make peace? Qin Ziren turned around and looked at Daifang. Just do whatever I tell you to do. Don't make me say the same thing a second time. This time, Qin Ziren's tone was a little impatient. Daifang used to admire him and listen to him. Why are you talking so much today? When a woman talks too much, she appears stupid. Qin Ziren looked down on Daifang from the bottom of his heart, and he looked at Fang Xian again. Fang Xian seemed much more pleasing to the eye than Daifang. She lowered her head and hid behind Daifang, looking timid, so weak and innocent, like a simple young lady who is ignorant of the world. This made Qin Ziren feel a little better. After letting Daifang go out first, he put his hands on Fang Xian's shoulders and said seriously, "Xinshin, you also know what kind of environment we are in now. You have to be more sensible. Now we need the help of the garrison to live a good life. Your sister has such resources in her hands. We can't make enemies with her. Do you understand?" As he spoke, he frivolously rolled Fang Xian's wet hair with his hands. "You should coax your sister back first. I promise that in my eyes, your sister's status will not surpass yours. Be good and obedient. I have something important to do. You have to help me. Xinshin?" Qin Ziren coaxed her. In fact, the reason Huami and Qin Ziren fell out was because Huami discovered the affair between him and Fang Xian. If Fang Xian apologized, wouldn't the problem be solved? Fang Xian blinked her innocent and hurt eyes, tears falling one by one. She nodded and threw herself into Qin Ziren's arms. I burst into tears in pain. What an infatuated girl. Even though she knew that the man she loved had another woman in his heart, she still loved him without hesitation. It's so heartbreaking. Daifang was standing outside Qin Ziren's office, listening to Fang Xian crying behind her, and she clenched her fists tightly. This time when she went out of the rescue center to find Huami, she was determined to make Huami withdraw from the relationship between Fang Xian and Qin Ziren. It's decided. Huami, who had no idea that someone was thinking about her like this, was standing outside the RV, watching Huajing lead the team and spend a day to build a rough RV fence for her. The fence is quite simple, just a circle built around the RV and the bus, using cement won in the Huami lottery. The original RV was moved to another place, and Huami built a simple waterproof tarpaulin shed on the 2 square meters of blackland. She told Yirong and the others that this was used to store supplies, and she really put a lot of water, medical supplies, tarpaulins, condoms, baby diapers, and heart-clearing and eye-brightening tea in this shed. So no one suspected anything. After finishing all this, Huami also cleared some space in her level 10 warehouse. She planned to go out of the city and put the remaining half of the medical supplies into the warehouse and bring them back. Outside the RV supermarket, Huami was packing her things. Since dragging a flatbed truck of oranges to the RV supermarket yesterday, Huami has collected oranges several times in a row. The oranges harvested were more and more each time. Even the few people in the RV couldn't eat them all, so they were piled up like a small mountain in the tent made of tarpaulin. So Huami asked Chao Feng to give 2 oranges to each of the garrisons standing guard in the surrounding area so that the garrisons could also supplement their vitamin C. There are some leftovers, so she plans to sell them for 19.9 yuan each. After taking care of the orange issue, Huami jumped into the jeep that the garrison had found for her, waved to her friends in the RV supermarket, and went out of the city to receive supplies. Halfway through the drive, before leaving the garrison management area, Huami discovered that he was being followed. Oh my god, this was the first time in her life that Huami was being followed. She felt so scared. She glanced in the rearview mirror and saw a flashy red car following behind her car. Huami parked her SUV on the side of the road surrounded by ruins. Daifeng was driving the red minivan behind her. When she saw Huami stop the car, she jumped out of the SUV. She stopped the car and got out with Feng Xian. Although it was raining, Feng Xian was wearing a golf jacket, a golf skirt, a baseball cap, and a transparent raincoat that she got from somewhere. She had newly done nail polish on her fingers, and the fake rhinestones on them sparkled, making her look like a senior secretary who was going to play golf with her boss. The sky was bright, and Huami stopped the colorful flash on her goggles. Otherwise, she really wanted to compete with Feng Xian to see who was the brightest fairy on this street. Elder sister. Feng Xian blinked her big eyes with false eyelashes and colored contact lenses and walked towards Huami. Huami, wearing a dark green raincoat, leaned against the door of the SUV and asked, "Why are you following me? Going out of town to die?" What she said was very unpleasant, and Daifeng immediately got angry. Daifeng took 2 steps forward and yelled at Huami, "Do you have any conscience? Xin just cares about you. Why are you cursing us?" As he roared, the rain floated into Daifeng's mouth and eyes. She was angry for a while, and then started to pant. "I have difficulty breathing and feel uncomfortable." There was a hint of sarcasm in Huami's eyes. She stood up straight, walked towards Daifeng and Feng Xian, and said to Daifeng, "Don't follow me. The outside of the city is not a good place. At a time like this, you'd better not leave the garrison's sight. Have you read the news online?" Although Huami rarely goes online, she occasionally hears Yirong talking about it, saying that the internet is full of all kinds of chaos. And most of those messy things happened outside the city. That is, a place where there are no garrisons or guards. It was the same in every city. Even outside the cities that were not affected by the disaster, there were varying degrees of unrest. So this is why Gongyi insisted on not allowing the garrison to be mobilized. At a time like this, the garrison's forces must not be dispersed, and order must be maintained as long as possible. As for other matters, such as disaster relief and material transportation, the garrison in Shangqing is so small that it cannot handle them. If you only care about the outside but not the inside, things will get even more chaotic. However, Huami's sincere advice was regarded by Daifeng as her ulterior motive. Daifeng said angrily, "If you were willing to have a good talk with us in the rescue center, we wouldn't have chased you here. What do you want to talk about?" Huami hid her hands in the cuffs of her raincoat, opening and closing her 5 fingers, wondering if the surrounding garrisons would turn a blind eye if she took out her fragile little steel bar to hit someone at this time. At this time, Feng Xian started crying. "Sister, I'm sorry. I shouldn't have fallen in love with Brother Xiren. I shouldn't have stolen your boyfriend. I I'm not here to break you two up. I just couldn't control myself and fell in love with a man I shouldn't love, okay? Okay, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you. Huami hurriedly pushed, as if to push Qin Ziren into Fong Xian's arms. You want me to give it to you? It's all yours. Is that okay? It's terrible, isn't it? Huami looks like someone who can't let go of Qin Ziren. What exactly shows that she can't let go? Whether in her previous life or this life, she has never been unable to let go. Dai Fong became even more furious when she saw her attitude. She immediately took 2 steps forward and shouted at Huami, "How could you do this? What's the point of saying this out of anger?" Before she could finish her words, Huami kicked Dai Fong, knocking her to the ground in the mud. She slid back 2 meters in a miserable state. Ah! Fong Xian screamed in fear and rushed over to help Dai Fong up. Huami grabbed Fong Xian by the back of the collar, lifted her up and threw her into the mud on the other side. When Dai Fong sat up in panic, Huami stepped forward and stepped on her again. Dai Fong, have I ever told you that I really don't like the way you talk to me? Please be a little more polite when you see me next time. Also, I warn you once again, it's very dangerous outside the city. If you want to die, go outside the city, but don't follow me, or I will be condemned by my conscience if I don't save you. This time she acted a little too aggressively and threw Dai Fong and Fong Xian out directly. According to the garrison rules, this was a disturbance that was absolutely not allowed. Well, if you didn't see it, then forget it. But if you did see it, it's hard to pretend you didn't see it. The garrison on the ruins in the distance took 2 steps towards Huami with a gun on his back and looked at her embarrassedly. Huami raised her hand to greet him, and not wanting to make things difficult for the garrison, she withdrew her foot from Dai Fong's chest and turned to walk towards her SUV. She drove away, and the garrison on the ruins returned to its original position, paying no attention to the 2 women in the mud. Dai Fong and Fong Xian struggled to get up. Fong Xian looked at Dai Fong crying. What should we do? We haven't completed what Brother Ziren asked us to do. Woo-woo. My sister is so fierce. Both of their raincoats were dirty and covered with mud, and a lot of mud had seeped into their raincoats of extremely poor quality. At this time, Dai Fong already wanted to return to the city. But before she could finish her words, Fong Xian cried and said, "Ah Fong, we still have to follow sister. What is sister going to do outside the city? Is she going to see the garrison leader? If we don't make it clear, Brother Ziren will say that we don't know how to do things after we go back." In fact, Fong Xian was also in a difficult situation. She was thrown to the ground by Huami, and her whole body was in pain. At this time, she didn't dare to get close to Huami anymore. What Fong Xian has not said is that, in fact, she has seen Huami's life getting better and better recently, and her inner jealousy and imbalance have been churning up again. Yes, she had been jealous of Huami since she was a child. So what? Why did Huami have good grades and good looks? Why did Huami not have to please men to get a man as good as Qin Ziren? Now why did Huami leave Qin Ziren and get close to a big shot like Gong Yi? How exactly is Fong Xian worse than Huami? Because Huami has supply channels and can get supplies for the garrison, Gong Yi treats Huami differently. Does Fong Xian also have supply channels? She believed that she could do no worse than Huami. So even though Dai Fong didn't want to leave the city, Fong Xian still urged her to go out. Maybe if she went out for a walk, she could get the favor of a big boss. Dai Fong hesitated. Seeing Fong Xian's pitiful appearance, she really wanted to find Huami back. She could only sigh, "Then we should both clean ourselves up. We are covered in mud and uncomfortable to wear. It's dirty." Really, since Huami doesn't want Mr. Qin anymore, can't she be more generous and choose to forgive Fong Xian? Why did she shout and kill them when she saw them? Now she is in so much pain, and she has to accompany Fong Xian to find her sister. Alas, the 2 women, covered in mud, returned to Shangqing to change clothes. Huami had already driven the off-road vehicle and disappeared in the rain. The car didn't drive forward for long before it could no longer move forward after leaving the patrol area. Because all the roads were destroyed by the earthquake, we had to walk to get to the medical supplies storage area. Same as last time. Huami decisively abandoned the car in front of a bad road. She had only taken 2 steps in her raincoat when a team of lifeguards came up behind her. Seeing how fast they were running, Huami was a little confused. so she quickened her pace and asked, "Where are you going?" There was a landslide ahead, and the boss was trapped inside. A lifeguard answered. Huami's heart skipped a beat. Was Gong Yi trapped in the mud? She hurriedly followed the lifeguard as he raced over the mountains and across the hills. This direction just happens to be where the medical supplies are stored. After a while, the entire bad road was blocked by a large piece of landslide. A group of lifeguards had already arrived and started digging. Huami approached the lifeguard holding the life monitor and asked, "What's the situation?" "Still alive, but I don't know where the boss is." The lifeguard holding the life detector had a very serious face. When the landslide occurred, their boss and a small team of lifeguards were carrying several survivors through a hole in the road. The continuous rains had made the soil here sparse, and more than half of the mountain had unexpectedly collapsed. So the people in the pothole will be fine for a short time. After hearing this, Huami breathed a sigh of relief. As long as Gong Yi was still alive, it would be fine. He was going to die. Who would take care of the garrisons and lifeguards in Shangqing? It would be a pity to let these young men fall into the hands of someone with bad intentions. In her previous life, Huami had seen many garrisons and lifeguards who, because of improper command from their superiors, lost their lives one by one in natural disasters and man-made tragedies. Some garrisons even became the private property of certain high-ranking officials, with internal strife taking place on the streets all day long. Not many monsters were killed, but the fights between their own people were fierce. It shouldn't be like this. When garrisoning, there should be the sacred glory of this profession, and their lives should be sacrificed on the battlefield, not in the endless flow of human desires. Based on the abilities and momentum that Gong Yi has demonstrated so far, Huami feels that he is a qualified garrison commander. Such a natural leader should not die so early. Looking at the more and more lifeguards gathering in front of her, Huami thought she should help. But what could she do at this time? Should she carry an engineer's shovel to dig the soil? While everyone was not paying attention, Huami took out a few pieces of waterproof tarpaulin from the level 10 storage, set up a tent for the lifeguards not far from the rescue point, and put a few boxes of water, a pile of medicine, and a lot of oranges in the tent. Not all the medicines she kept in the tent came from her level 8 factory. The medicines that come out of the level 8 factory are all for treating external injuries, and there are also some essential medicines that are actually in short supply for the rescue team. For example, the rescue team is in short supply of various medicines for treating basic human diseases. Huami didn't take out many of these medicinal herbs, but he put in a portion of each. The small tent was almost full of people. The lifeguard who was working hard to dig out the mud mountain in front suddenly cheered. "It's out! It's out!" A child was rescued. She was covered in mud, and when she was pulled out of the mud hole, she burst into tears out of fear. A lifeguard turned around and was about to find something to wrap up the child when he saw a tent not far away. When did a tent appear here? When human life was at stake, he could not care less and ran over. Just in time to see Huami coming out of the tent, she handed him a tarpaulin. "Here, wrap the baby in this." "Thank you, Miss Hua." The lifeguard took the oilcloth and wrapped the child. Another person was rescued. Seeing this, Huami simply went back to the tent and placed hundreds of oilcloths in the tent at once. Soon a few more lifeguards came and took away the tarpaulin in the tent. They were in a hurry and had no time to care where the tent and supplies came from. Survivors were dug out one after another, including ordinary people and lifeguards who were buried in the mountain. Some are alive and can still shout and cry, while others are dying, with only one breath left before death. A lifeguard came and set up a larger tent next to Huami's tent, and placed all the survivors in the tent for initial treatment. But Gong Yi was nowhere to be seen. Huami originally had full confidence in this man, thinking that with Gong Yi's momentum, he would not die so early at the beginning of the apocalypse. But as it got darker, she started to lose confidence. So much time has passed, and the pothole where Gong Yi was hiding must have been filled with yellow mud. Would he suffocate to death in there? She looked a little anxious, standing in front of the tent, watching the lifeguards working in front. At this time, Huami had no other choice. A lifeguard came over and wanted to ask Huami if she had any medicine. Before he could open his mouth, Huami pointed to the full tent of supplies behind him and said, "Go find what you need yourself." The lifeguard nodded to Huami, went into the tent behind her, and took out the supplies they needed. On a rainy night, Huami kept looking at the mountain in front of her that had been dug into pieces. With every second that passes, Gong Yi's chance of survival decreases. As Gong Yi's chances of survival decreased, everyone on the rescue team became anxious on the rainy night. However, the rain seemed to be against them, and it got heavier and heavier. Huami stood in the rain, feeling her lower abdomen twitching and feeling very uncomfortable. The lifeguard behind him took out some goggles from the tent and asked, "Sister Hua, are these prepared for us?" Huami turned around and looked at the goggles flashing with colorful light in the lifeguard's hand. She was so busy taking out supplies that she didn't pay attention to what she had taken out. At this moment, seeing the goggles in the lifeguard's hand, she nodded immediately. "Yes, this one can see things quite clearly." The lifeguard put one on immediately, not caring whether the goggles looked cool or not. In such heavy rain and dark sky, having goggles that can clear vision obstructions is a huge help to them. Sometimes it is such an inconspicuous little thing that can play the most important role at the most critical moment. In the thick night, colorful lights flickered, and lifeguards put on goggles one after another. Finally, everyone realized that they were wearing goggles to rescue in the rainy night, without even using a flashlight. The goggles that Sister Hua got are so effective. By late night, the first batch of seriously injured patients who were dug out had received preliminary treatment and were sent back to Shangqing by lifeguards. Gong Yi still hasn't been dug out. Huami sat in her tent, holding her belly, and couldn't help but call up the control panel of Apocalypse Supermarket. She looked at her remaining Lottery X8 and prayed silently in her heart. If she had bad luck in her previous life, then she should have good luck for once in this life. After praying, Huami felt her twitching abdomen slowly calm down. She closed her eyes and pressed Lottery X8. Obtain Orange Tree Growth Speed X12, time limit. 72 hours, get newborn jumpsuit X100000, get 10 nanny cars, get 1 garbage recycling station, get the universal signal connector X100000, get self-heating hot pot, dark mustard flavor. X100000, get folic acid X1000, get Xiao Chai Hu granules X100000. Huami looked at these things one by one. Fortunately, her level 10 storage had been emptied a lot. Otherwise, there would not be enough space for so many messy things. She took a fancy to the universal signal device, so she flipped her hand and took one out from the level 10 storage. This universal signal connector looks like a mobile phone holder with a very small Doraemon design. It can be attached to the back of a mobile phone case and can actually be used as a mobile phone holder. Huami put one on her mobile phone and found that in this remote place, her mobile phone signal, which was originally only 1 or 2 bars, was now full of bars. She suddenly had an idea and called Gong Yi on her cell phone. After a burst of noise, the voice came through with incredible clarity. "Hello? Hello? Gong Yi? Are you still alive?" Huami asked loudly, but this was actually nonsense. Gong Yi could even get through on the phone. How could he not be alive? There was silence for a moment on the other end of the phone, as if he had not expected that he could receive Huami's call even though he was in such an environment, surrounded by wet mud and rocks, and his phone had been soaked in the mud for more than 10 hours. Gong Yi laughed. His voice was low and a little hoarse. I guess you're still alive." Huami breathed a sigh of relief, and her slightly twitching belly also relaxed a little, feeling much more comfortable. "You guessed right." Inside the phone, Gong Yi's laughter became louder. He was in a pool of mud, and everything around him was dark. In fact, his cell phone was out of battery, but Huami's voice came through the broken carrier in his hand. It's like a ray of salvation in the darkness. Not seeing the light and only hearing the sounds was an encouragement to him. "Wait a minute, they are so worried about you and are trying their best to save you. You have to hold on, don't die, don't close your eyes." Gong Yi responded, but what he didn't say was that he was not afraid of death. What he was afraid of was being trapped to death with no hope. But now he felt much better, because Huami told him that he had not been abandoned, and his fellow men were trying their best to dig him out. All he had to do was wait there. Huami leaned on a pile of supplies, one arm protecting her belly and one hand holding her cell phone. At this time, she didn't know what to say. In fact, it was enough to know that Gong Yi was still alive. However, after finally getting through to Gong Yi's call, Huami didn't want to hang up. So she asked again, "Is it dark in there?" "Black." Gong Yi's voice came from the phone. After a pause, he asked back, "You care about me?" Huami didn't say anything. At this time, this atmosphere, this tone, and this topic were a bit dangerous. "But I have to hang up the phone now, and I don't know if I can get through to Gong Yi again." Coincidentally, Gong Yi didn't want to hang up the phone either. He showed a rare moment of leisure and asked, "Actually, I'm quite curious. Do you really not remember me? Or are you pretending not to remember me?" "What?" Huami didn't understand where the grievance in this boss's words came from, so she asked, "I've always been curious. Where have we met before?" 3302, remember? On the other end of the phone, Gong Yi showed a hint of gnashing his teeth. "Do you want me to explain it more clearly? What is 3302? Huami is even more confused. Her real confusion, when seen by someone else, becomes annoying and hateful. Because she dragged him to get this room. On the other end of the phone, Gong Yi was silent for a moment. He suddenly realized that he seemed to have been played with by this scumbag. What did she think of him? When she coaxed him to get a room, she said sweet words. It's so hateful. Huami continued to rack her brains to think. What is 3302? The password of the safe? Some secret code? After thinking about it for a long time, she couldn't figure it out, so she just lay down. "Why don't you just tell me directly? Where have you seen me? Do I owe you money? If I don't owe you money, it's easy to talk about it. If I did, why don't we write it off now?" She has a straightforward personality because she remembers that she never owed anyone any money in her previous life, and if she did, the amount was not much. A few hundred yuan, a few dozen yuan? In the face of such natural and man-made disasters, it's a waste. Suddenly, Huami seemed to have gained intelligence and asked in a very generous manner. The time with Huami was the first time in Gong Yi's life. He could remember the details for a lifetime. But what about this bad girl? She forgot about him completely the moment she turned her back. Very good. The feud is settled. Gong Yi was very angry, but Huami didn't take it to heart. She said with a grin, "You look pretty good now, boss. Are you hungry? I should go and give your guys some hot pot. Keep a record." He even ran out and shouted to the outside, "Man is made of iron and rice is made of steel. If you don't eat, you'll be hungry. Those who are taking a break, come and have some hot pot." The small hot pot is self-heating, and there is also clean mineral water for them. For those who have been continuously rescuing in the rain for dozens of hours, this small hot pot really came at the right time. The young men who had just rested and were starving came over and lined up to enter the tent to get the hot pot. They were very excited when they went in, but after taking it out, they looked at the small hot pot with dark mustard flavor in their hands and fell into deep thought. This is a flavor they have never tasted before. It shouldn't be poisonous enough to kill people. Seeing that everyone was enjoying the hot pot, Huami put another 10,000 boxes of Xiao Chai Hu granules into the tent. After all, in this weather, people are getting wet in the rain all day long, and even if there are no problems, they will cause problems. It is good to drink some Xiao Chai Hu granules. As the sky gradually brightened, a lifeguard shouted, "We found the boss. Hurry up." The lifeguard's voice was also heard from the phone. Huami relaxed and hung up the phone while the lifeguard was going towards Gong Yi. Then he patted his ace and continued to cross mountains and rivers towards the place where the large amount of medical supplies were stored. It was as if the phone call that was stuck in the mud was an illusion he had created. If he hadn't seen the dark mustard-flavored self-heating hot pot brought over by the lifeguard, Gong Yi would have really doubted whether he had received a call from Huami. Huami walked forward all the way, her figure so light as if she had no weight. She walked faster and faster, and more floating. The sky gradually brightened, and as she walked, she continued to study the things she had won in the lottery. Needless to say, the growth speed of the orange trees is so fast that Huami can harvest several waves of oranges in just one night and one morning. Every time we harvest oranges now, we harvest 3,000 to 4,000 to 5,000. We also harvested grapefruits, apples, and the cherries, pomegranates, kiwis, and cantaloupes that we had planted earlier, but the quantity was not as great as the oranges. Huami took out an orange as she walked, peeled it, and ate it. She casually wanted to throw away the orange peel, but then she remembered that she had won a recycling station in the lottery. "Hey, what is this?" Huami opened the control panel of Apocalypse Supermarket and found a trash can symbol on her panel. Huami opened the trash can sign and threw the orange peel in her hand into the trash can. Recycling. Orange peel. Conversion energy x0. 0 tip. Energy has been charged into the level 8 factory. No surplus. This means that this amount of energy from garbage conversion is not enough, because Huami's level 8 factory requires a large amount of energy every day to produce materials. Hey, Huami felt fresh. She stopped her flying steps and looked carefully at the recycling station that she had drawn in the lottery. Could it be that recycling garbage and it could generate energy? With this thing, what would diesel be for? Huami looked at a collapsed house in front of her. She rushed over, picked up a rotten chair on the ground, and threw it into the recycling station. Recycling, rotten chair, converted energy x0. Recycling, paper, conversion energy x0.0000. Recycling, stone fragments, conversion energy x0.000. The energy converted from these garbage is pitifully small, but there is too much garbage. Huami seemed to be getting excited and recovered the entire collapsed house. Finally, her level 8 factory green bar rose by 0.1%. This is cause for celebration. If the price can increase by 0.1%, how far is it from 99.9%? You know, the more time passes in this world, the more garbage there will be, especially after all the cities were turned into rubble by the earthquake. Huami was particularly excited and walked towards the medical supplies storage area, recycling garbage along the way. She recycled whatever she saw, including torn plastic bags, empty lunchboxes, torn pieces of paper, rotten furniture, moldy rice, and chewed bubble gum. When she finally got the energy bar of the level 8 factory to 10%, she had already walked to the vicinity of the medical supplies storage area. Nearby, Huami discovered a gathering place for survivors. Oh, calling them a survivor gathering place now is still not accurate enough. They should be a group of survivors who migrated from other cities. Because this end of the world is in chaos, the order in which disasters come is completely different from what Huami experienced in her previous life. Therefore, she lost the ability to foresee and judge the coming of disaster. But Huami still knows some very basic phenomena. For example, it would be very dangerous for a single woman to leave the city at this time and move around alone out of the sight of the garrison. For example, some cities will become more and more chaotic, but some cities have good order. Then many survivors from these cities will move to these cities with good order management. From the current perspective, the garrison is in Gongyi's hands, so Xiangqing has not fallen into disorder, which will inevitably attract many survivors to Xiangqing. Huami stood in a grove of trees and observed the migrating team of survivors who were setting up tents in an open space in the distance. This team is made up of men, and its purpose is not very clear. She chose to stay away. These are some lessons she learned from living in the apocalypse in her previous life. Maybe at this time, the hearts of people in a group with a large number of men are not as sinister as she imagined, but it is always better to be careful. Unless the other party is a strictly disciplined group such as garrisons and lifeguards, it is hard to imagine what will happen to women once disorder breaks out. Huami hid in the woods, vigilantly and carefully avoided the team of survivors in front of her, and continued to walk towards the depression where medical supplies were stored. Because the earthquake caused the mountain to change, the depression became smaller and smaller. Fortunately, Huami didn't spend much time in the city. Otherwise, if she had arrived a few days later, the last half of the medical supplies would have been trapped in the mudslide and completely submerged without a trace. And she keenly discovered that before she came, half of these medical supplies had already been coveted by someone. The group of men next to the medical supplies are in the same group as the team of survivors who set up tents in the open space nearby. It can be seen at a glance, from the distance between them and the supplies they carry with them, that they are here for this batch of medical supplies just like the previous group. Huami hid behind a tree, careful not to be discovered by the group of men. She planned to take a detour, avoid everyone's attention, and sneak down to collect the supplies. It's not a good idea to show up openly at this time. The other person hasn't shown any signs of being extremely evil. Huami can't just rush down and kill them all. She is just cruel and ruthless, not addicted to killing. Since she had no intention of killing anyone, there was no need for her to draw attention to herself. In the depression, two men were smoking with their backs to Huami. One of them took out his cell phone and complained while watching the color video on his cell phone. "Let's get these medical supplies out first." The man next to him came over and watched the short color video together. While watching, the two were also discussing the figures of the women in the video. They didn't notice at all the dozens of large trailers behind them, which were disappearing one by one in the misty drizzle. There are more than 100 large trailers, and the disappearance of a few of them would not attract much attention. Instead, the two people who were watching the pornographic video suddenly received a call saying that their brothers who were patrolling outside had met two lost women. Two women? The two men who were complaining about the lack of women in this remote countryside couldn't help but look at each other. His eyes were full of hormones. This is very intriguing. This place is not a village with a large population. It was quite desolate before the earthquake. What were the two women doing here? Not only were they curious, but Huami was also curious. But the purpose of her coming today was to collect medical supplies, which had already been sold to her by Kaming Hong, so they originally belonged to her. Therefore, Huami didn't care about so many things and just took away her medical supplies as soon as possible. In the mountains not far from Wamadiao, Dai Fong and Fong Xian, both dirty, were trembling as they looked at the two men in front of them. After they changed their clothes, they drove out of the city. Their original intention was to look for Huami, but they drove further and further off the road, and finally the car broke down on the road. At this time, two people called Qin Ziren, but Qin Ziren hadn't answered the phone yet. So the two of them spent the night in the car. Sadly, their cell phones ran out of battery, the car wouldn't start, and they couldn't charge their cell phones. Dai Fong and Fong Xian had no choice but to decide to walk out to find a rescue team. The rescue team didn't find them, but they accidentally ran into the two men in front of them. One of the two men smiled and said to Fong Xian and Dai Fong, "You two ladies, are you lost? Would you like to come to our camp and sit for a while?" Dai Fong looked at the polite man in front of her with some caution and said to Fong Xian, "Forget it, Xin. Let's go back. I heard there was a landslide nearby, and the rescue team should be not far away. I really regret leaving the city. The situation outside the city is completely different from before. No wonder so many people don't want to stay in Shangqing, but they can't get out at all. The roads are so bad that it's hard to get out of Shangqing, and the supplies from outside can't get in." When the man in front of her heard her say this, he smiled and waved his hand, looking generous. "It's okay. It's okay if you don't go to our camp. I just saw you two running around in the wilderness. I'm afraid you will encounter some danger." He did not show any discomfort, but instead had a gentle and refined temperament. This made Fong Xian completely lose her guard. She looked back at the gravel and forest behind her, and also advised Dai Fong, "We don't know where we are now, and our phones are out of battery. The rain has soaked us through. Let's go to the camp ahead and sit down. At least borrow a power bank and charge our phones." What kind of evil people can there be in this world? Look at the clothes of the two men opposite. They are all wearing off-road clothing, and the brands are also very expensive. You can tell at first glance that it is the attire of a rich person. Before the earthquake, many people would go out camping, hiking, etc., which are all very advanced and healthy hobbies. Besides, they are not that unlucky. It's not that bad that they met bad guys as soon as they left the city. Dai Fong didn't want to. She shook her head and was about to persuade Fong Xian. But Fong Xian pulled her towards the two men. "Oh, Fong, you are just too vigilant. Why do you think so badly of people? Don't be like my sister, who is so pessimistic and unsunny." When Dai Fong heard Fong Xian compare her to Huami, she followed Fong Xian's steps. She didn't want to be like Huami, who beats up everyone she sees and has violent tendencies. When the two men saw them coming, the smiles on their faces deepened, and they led Fong Xian and Dai Fong to their camp. In the depression where medical supplies were stored, the two men who were guarding the supplies also received the news. They looked at each other. This kind of woman must be quite open-minded. Otherwise, why would she just run away with a man so easily? It's getting dark. I'll go back and see what they look like. The two of them exchanged shifts, one guarding the medical supplies in the depression, and the other going back to see the girl. Anyway, there were so many medical supplies stored in this depression, and no one would get them out in a short time. Even their professional salvage and leak-picking teams would find it difficult to come up with a solution within a few days. so they might as well go back to the camp and have some fun. The same idea applies to guarding in other directions. There are hundreds of large trailers, each loaded with medical supplies nearly 5 meters high. They will not run away if they are placed here. Everyone went back to see the girls, and only a few people were left in the depression, and dozens of large trailers. Yes, there were more than 100 trailers, but in the end, only a few dozen were left. Just like that, he disappeared without a trace. As it was not getting dark yet, Huami was still hurrying back to Xiangqing. She began to feel frightened and took out her steel bars from the level 10 storage and hit the guards with clubs one by one. She hit one and dragged one away and collected several medical supply trucks. When the last guard discovered that there were no supply trucks behind him, he was also hit by a club. Huami quickly collected the last batch of medical supplies and finally lowered her head to look at the guards scattered on the ground. Their clothes were all branded goods, so she could just recycle them as garbage. Huami, who was suffering from energy anxiety, picked up the medical drugs scattered on the ground in the depression and threw them into the recycling bin. She seemed so crazy that she even took the pills covered in mud. If possible, she also wanted to throw the mudslide that fell nearby into the recycling bin. But we don't know how much time this will take, and it will also affect the changes in nearby mountains. While Huami was hesitating, she received a call from the relative of the factory manager at the gas station. Hello? Sister Hua, the diesel and gasoline you ordered are stuck outside Xiangqing and can't be brought in. Do you want to return them? The diesel and gasoline that Huami ordered last time had actually been delivered, but Huami immediately ordered 10,000 tank trucks of gasoline and 10,000 tank trucks of diesel. The relative at the gas station knew that he could no longer transport so much goods, not because he had no source of goods, but because even if he had a source of goods, he could not transport them to Xiangqing. He sighed on the phone. Did your team stockpile any supplies? This is inside information. Don't tell anyone else. All the roads out of the city are blocked. Not only can't oil get into the city, but other supplies, such as food and drink, can't get into the city. The relative at the gas station started laughing again. Look at what I said. Your rescue team will definitely be fine. After all, Boss Gong has given 10 billion to the rescue team. I heard that you have been shopping a lot recently. You must have supplies. Huami also smiled after hearing this and said, look at what you said. You know I've been buying a lot recently, so maybe others don't know about it? The rescue team only has so much supplies. When the time comes, everyone will ask us for it. Even if we stockpile as much as we can, there's nothing we can do. Without waiting for the gas station relative to say anything, Huami continued. Let's put it this way. We have done so many deals and our cooperation has always been pleasant. You don't have to test me. For other things, if you are short of mineral water, tarpaulins, and respirators, just come to me for them. I can only watch and sell you some other things, like self-heating hot pots and oranges. I have a lot of them here, and I can sell you tens of thousands of them. I have the authority to do so, because I am familiar with Boss Gong. Also, I need diesel and gasoline on a long-term basis. Where is your tanker stuck? I'll find someone to haul it. Just tell me the address. Huami spoke in an official tone. How much energy can she convert from recycling garbage? The most reliable ones are diesel and gasoline. So since she is out of the city now, she will collect the tanker first. The relative at the gas station immediately became happy. He pointed out a direction to Huami. Our sister Hua still has a way. Have you heard? Qin Ziren, the emergency department, has been trying to mobilize the garrison of the Xiangqing Emergency Department to transport medical supplies into the city for him so that he can move up, but Captain Gong didn't agree. Ha 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 ha. The other party thought that what Huami meant by finding someone to tow the goods was to find the garrison to tow the goods, and he became even more respectful to Huami. This woman is not simple. She must have a special relationship with Gong Yi. You have to hold this woman's thighs tightly. Huami did not explain and just let the relatives at the gas station say whatever they wanted. Anyway, there were only a few big guys in Xiangqing, and if there was any news, everyone would share it with each other. Qin Ziren wanted to mobilize the garrison, but the fact that there was no mobilization became like a joke and was passed around among the bigwigs. Of course, many people also knew about Huami's previous frantic purchase of supplies from the big guys. What is reassuring is that Huami did not intend to monopolize all the supplies. At least she promised her relatives at the gas station that she was willing to sell an unlimited amount of mineral water, tarpaulins, and respirators, as well as a certain number of self-heating hot pots and oranges. When food and supply trucks could not enter Xiangqing, Huami was able to sell these, which made many people feel at ease. After hanging up the phone with her relative at the gas station, Huami changed direction and planned to walk to the place where the tanker was stuck and continue to collect the tankers. Her feet paused and she kicked a white foam box. The box was well packed. It should be the medicine that the group of people took out from the medical supplies trailer. Huami picked up the foam box in the mud and wiped the mud off the box with her sleeve. No wonder those men don't want it. What do they want it for? She was going to throw it in the recycling bin. But when I look at the packaging of this box, it seems quite tight, and the test papers inside are definitely not contaminated. Huami decided to keep it, washed it directly with mineral water, and put it into her level 10 storage. She climbed up the depression, still thinking about the early pregnancy test paper in her head. Suddenly, she remembered that, it seemed that she didn't have her period this month. On the rainy night, a flash of lightning suddenly flew across the sky, shocking Huami where she was. No way, it can't be that bad. She has never thought about this possibility. How about we take a test? Anyway, I just picked up a box of early pregnancy test strips. It's not free. At this moment, the laughter of men and women suddenly came from behind a forest on her side. It was the group of men in the camp. I guess these men were getting along well with the two lost women. They were talking and laughing, and it was quite lively. Huami's cell phone rang. She looked down and saw it was an unfamiliar phone number. So I picked up the phone and heard Dai Feng's nervous voice. Huami, where are you? Huami, I want to tell you something. Can you come and help us? Xian, and I can't seem to get away. On the other end of the phone, Dai Feng hid in the tent and didn't dare to go out. There were men everywhere outside. They had set up an open-air tent and were telling jokes to Feng Xian. The joke was somewhat explicit, which made Dai Feng feel very uneasy. She hinted to Feng Xian countless times that she should leave. But Feng Xian looked at the high-end red wine on the camping table and felt that these men were either rich or noble. She was also deliberately being retained by the men, so she could not leave at all. In other words, the two of them were entangled by this group of men. Dai Feng used the excuse of going to the tent to rest and recharge. After thinking it over, she called the rescue team, but the rescue team did not arrive yet. She called Huami again. She felt that Huami's ruthlessness in beating people was comparable to that of this group of men. And Huami also left the city. Didn't she go out of the city to receive supplies? She should be wandering around here. Thinking of this, Dai Feng quickly told Huami about her and Feng Xian's situation and cried again, Huami, Sister Huami, please come and save us. It was all my fault before. I was not good. I shouldn't have disobeyed you. I shouldn't have left the city. Please come. Huami, you can't do this. Huami. Dai Feng's angry voice sounded on the other end of the phone. Huami hung up the call and continued walking deeper into the woods. According to the direction given by the relative at the gas station, if she walked about 10 kilometers from where she was now, she would reach the place where the tanker truck was stuck. The relatives at the gas station have sold all the oil that could be obtained in the entire Xiangqing to Huami. The current batch of oil was transported from the neighboring city by him using his connections, but still couldn't beat time. Huami calculated that it was only a dozen kilometers, which would normally take her 20 to 30 minutes to drive. But now she had to trek over the mountains and hills, so she had to prepare a whole day. With this plan in mind, she was no longer in a hurry. She walked for a while in her raincoat, found a high ground with a relatively wide view, and released the nanny car she had won in a lottery from the level 10 warehouse. I originally planned to take a rest, then take out the early pregnancy test to test whether I was pregnant. But when she opened the macaron-colored nanny car, Huami realized that she had thought the problem too simply. This is not just a cheap item given away in a lottery, it is simply a top-notch luxury nanny car. There are original wooden floors, airline business class leather seats, and the car is also equipped with a shock-proof and fall-proof baby car seat. The key point is that this nanny car has a pocket-sized kitchen area, a bathroom, and a mother and child bed in the back. There is even a baby guardrail on the bed. There is also a small table for doing homework. Children in the end times still need to do homework. Huami felt as if fate was playing a joke on her. How about taking a test? She must be overthinking it. What's wrong with her period being a few days late? She used to have irregular periods every month. Besides, I wasn't pregnant in my previous life, so how could this accident happen in this life? Huami didn't take it seriously and went into the bathroom of the nanny car with the early pregnancy test paper. She really didn't want to complain. This was already a top-notch luxury nanny car. Could they give her a bigger toilet? She was holding the pregnancy test paper in her hand, waiting for the result nonchalantly, when she received a call from Gong Yi. Where? There was a crackling rain over at Gong Yi's place. There was a lot of noise, and there were also sounds of women crying and shouting. Huami felt annoyed after hearing this. She looked at the pregnancy test paper in her hand, and 2 red lines slowly appeared. What does that mean? Where is the instruction manual? She sat down on the airline seat, flipped through the instructions for the early pregnancy test paper, and spoke in a very aggressive tone. What do you care where I am? Why is it so noisy over there? I received an SOS. A bunch of scumbags wanted to bully 2 women. You know these 2 women. During the process, 2 of them ran away. One fell off the mountain, and the other was crying. Gong Yi was wondering whether to talk about this matter. He stood in the rain. Dai Feng and Feng Xian behind him were sent away by the lifeguards. There was a group of men squatting on the ground. Obviously, Dai Feng won't live long, but Feng Xian is fine. Dai Feng and Feng Xian? Oh. Huami looked at the 2 bars on the instruction manual in shock. Is she pregnant? Are you pregnant? Pregnant? On the phone, Gong Yi asked worriedly, Are you okay? Where are you? When I first received the SOS, I thought you were in here. I was so worried. Where are you? Speak. Talk? Talk nonsense? I'm fine, I'm busy. Huami hung up Gong Yi's phone directly. When he called again, she added Gong Yi's number to the blacklist. Then one person pressed his forehead and leaned on the workboard to digest the news. Well, maybe the measurement was not accurate. This is a big deal. I have to find Kim Minghong later and get her a more reliable doctor to check it out. She wasn't pregnant in her previous life, so why is she pregnant in this life? What went wrong? If she was really pregnant, should she look for the duck? After all, that duck is the child's father. But since the money and goods were already paid for, wouldn't it be a bit unfair to go back to the duck and ask for after-sale service? TSK, what's the point of thinking so much now? I need to go back and see a doctor for a detailed checkup to find out the truth. Huami thought about it for a long time, and finally persuaded herself that health was the most important thing at this time. If she got pregnant, she still had to take good care of herself. So she filled the water tank of the nanny car with a large bucket of mineral water, took a hot bath, and fell asleep. On that stormy night, she never expected that a man would run through all the surrounding wilderness in order to find her. The sky was getting light, and raindrops fell from the thick clouds, gathering into a thick water vapor. Bang 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 sounds woke Huami up from the bunk bed. She pushed the blindfold on her face to the top of her head and yelled in a bad mood, Who is it? Who is looking for death? I. Gong Yi's voice sounded outside the car door, filled with deep anger. Open the door. Opening the door at this time is seeking death. Don't think Huami couldn't hear the anger in Gong Yi's tone. Her bladder started to panic, and she turned over in bed, opened the small window above her head, showed her face, and shouted, What? Gong Yi, who was standing by the car door, walked over with a damp look on his body. There were many scratches on his resolute and handsome face. The rain hit his face, dripping together with the blood from the wound. He stared at the disheveled Huami and sneered, It's easy to find a place for you to sleep. After searching over mountains and across rivers for a whole night, we approached the area and saw the nanny car parked on the high ground at a glance. Yes, it saved him a lot of trouble. Huami lay on the bed, feeling guilty for no apparent reason. She tried to hold herself together. What do you want from me? Are you free? Yes, I am just free. Gong Yi outside was so angry that he was about to explode. He had an incomprehensible anger and yelled at Huami. Feng Xian said that you also left the city, and the 2 of them followed you out. I was thinking, maybe your body was dumped there. Well, you were sleeping here peacefully. You were really good. This time Gong Yi was really anxious. He had dealt with many vicious SOS. When he heard Fong Xian crying and saying that Huami was also near them, he became anxious. But she called Huami, and she put him on the blacklist. Given Huami's temper, she would definitely not be that obedient. She was just afraid that if she resisted, those cruel people would beat her, hurt her, and finally abandon her body in the wilderness. When he thought of this possibility, Gong Yi couldn't stop searching. Seeing Gong Yi like this, Huami felt guilty and soft-hearted. She never thought that Gong Yi could find this place. It must have taken a lot of effort. It's really thoughtful. Gong Yi is a good person. She hurriedly found her cell phone and car keys, dragged Gong Yi's phone number off the blacklist, and used the car keys to open the car door. With a bang, Gong Yi opened the door of the nanny car. He did not get in the car. He stood outside the car, covered in mud and blood, and asked unhappily, "You were staying in the city? Why did you come out?" "Getting supplies. What can I do?" Huami yawned and got off the bed. She walked to the door and motioned Gong Yi to get in the car. "Don't stand at the door. Come in." "No, I'm very dirty." Gong Yi lifted his feet, which were covered in mud. Huami's nanny car was quite clean. He went in, and she would have to clean it up later. "Don't bother her at this time. Just come in if I tell you to. I picked up this car, and I wasn't any better than you when I came in." Huami turned around, swept the pregnancy test paper on the homework board into the trash can, and got a bottle of water for Gong Yi. She turned around and found her big bag, took out ethanol, sterile gauze, and hemostatic gel. "Come up and I'll show you the wound on your face." Her tone became much better. After all, Gong Yi was a nice person, and he had been looking for her for the whole night. So she had to be nicer to him. Gong Yi looked at Huami steadily, opened his lips, and finally took off his muddy boots and got into the car. As soon as he took off his raincoat, Huami forced him to sit on the airline chair. The anger he had been accumulating all night dissipated very quickly when he saw Huami was safe and sound. "Do you know what it means for you, a woman, to be out there at this time and invite a man to get in the car?" He saw her turn around and use sterile gauze soaked in ethanol to rub it on his face, and he couldn't help laughing again. After a while, Gong Yi stopped smiling and said slowly, "Dai Fong was almost dying from the fall, and Fong Xian was sent back to Shangqing crying all the way." These few ordinary words imply the evil of human nature, which is evil to the extreme. That group of scumbags thought Fong Xian and Dai Fong were the kind of casual women, so they were indeed planning to get rid of them. But before it even started, Dai Fong pulled Fong Xian away. The two of them ran around in the rainforest in a panic, and finally Dai Fong fell off a cliff. When he was sent to the emergency center, he was only breathing his last breath and has not woken up yet. On the contrary, Fong Xian was crying. She was fine, but she didn't say anything when asked. Gong Yi did not explain the details of what happened, but Huami knew what happened. She stood in front of Gong Yi calmly, cleaning the cut on his face, with a slightly sarcastic expression on her face. "When I left the city, the two of them followed me. I told them that it was dangerous outside the city and asked them not to leave. It doesn't mean you will be 100% sure to encounter danger once you leave the city, but the risk factor is definitely higher than inside the city. Especially two beautiful women." After cleaning the blood off Gong Yi's face, Huami threw away a ball of sterile gauze stained red with blood and applied hemostatic gel on Gong Yi. Then she said to Gong Yi, "I saw the men's camp from a distance, but I didn't approach them. We should be cautious at this time. I didn't expect Dai Fong and Fong Xian to go there." As she spoke, she sat on the chair by the door, looking at the raindrops flying outside. "Dai Fong called me last night and said that you were too slow to go there, and asked me to go and save them first, but I didn't go." She knew that if she said this, many people would scold her for not helping the two girls, saying that she was cruel and heartless, and that she knew the two girls were in danger but still didn't help. In fact, with her skills, it is not a problem for her to fight against many people at once. But what if? What if there was a 1 in 10,000 chance that one of the men was better at fighting than Huami and knocked her down before she could teleport? What should she do? These two people were not indispensable to her life, not important enough for her to risk her life to save them. She was selfish, and she didn't want to take any chances with it. What's more, there is a high possibility that she is pregnant with a little one. I know that what I said was too selfish and mean for you garrisons, but this is me. I don't care if you want to be friends with me in the future. Huami continued talking, hugging her belly with her arms, looking stubbornly at the rain outside the door. She had never been friends with the garrisons in her previous life. The sentiments of these garrisons in the early days of the apocalypse were too noble, which made her seem particularly selfish. A big hand covered her head, and the warm and dry palm rubbed her hair. Huami turned her head and saw Gong Yi's smiling face. He smiled, with two shallow dimples on his cheeks. He looked less serious than usual, like a big boy. I have been an SOS for more than a year. I can tell you responsibly that your choice this time is 100% correct. It's like a child seeing someone drowning. He can't jump into the water to save the person. He must ask an adult for help. Daifeng had already reported an SOS signal, so their actions were a little slow, but that was because Daifeng did not report her location clearly. You have to trust the rescue team. Compared to the wild, Shangqing is just a local point, a very small point. Outside the city are endless mountains and wilderness, with large areas of uninhabited areas. In many areas, there is no signal at all. What's more, Daifeng and Feng Xian finally ran out of the camp. Under such circumstances, it took the rescue team only a few hours to find the traces of Daifeng and Feng Xian, which was considered extremely fast. So who can say that Huami's self-preservation is wrong? At this time, 2 people have already been killed. So is it really necessary to send another innocent girl into the wolf's den? Is this right? Isn't this selfish? You've done a good job. Just like what you did just now. You didn't open the door for me immediately before you were sure of my intention. That was right. Gong Yi couldn't help but pull a few more handfuls of Huami's hair, and the feeling was as smooth as he remembered. It was not until his hand was opened by Huami that he said again, "All right, I'm angry enough. What do you have to eat here? I've been looking for you all night, and you haven't had a sip of water." Huami then suppressed the complicated emotions in her heart, stood up, rummaged through her large shoulder bag, and took out a self-heating hot pot, dark mustard flavor. "Change it. I don't eat this." When Gong Yi saw the small hot pot that Huami took out, his eyebrows jumped. "You are the only one who has too many things to do." Huami rolled her eyes at Gong Yi, then rummaged through her bag and pulled out a pack of instant noodles with pickled cabbage flavor. This time, Mr. Gong didn't say anything. He sat on the chair, watching her busying herself for him, and suddenly asked, "What supplies do you want to receive? I'll assign some people to you to help you transport them." Standing in the small kitchen area, Huami took out a small pot to cook instant noodles and smiled. "I heard that Qin Ziren asked you to borrow someone, but you didn't lend him any. Why are you assigning someone to me this time?" Gong Yi behind him did not answer. Huami looked back while cooking noodles. The man who said he wanted to eat noodles was looking at her in a daze. Huami quickly turned her head away and lowered her head to cook noodles. She felt so uneasy because of the ambiguity and danger. Gong Yi's eyes were drowning. Gong Yi behind him lowered his head, thought for a moment, and chose a distance that Huami felt was safe. Qin Ziren's purpose is not simple. He wants to take control of the garrison, not necessarily to transport medical supplies into the city. Huami couldn't help but curl her lips. She brought the small pot to the homework table and sat on the chair next to it. There was a small aisle between her and Gong Yi. He did go a little too far. It's not a good thing for the garrison to fall into his hands. Looking at Gong Yi lowering his head and eating noodles in big mouthfuls, as if he was starving and hadn't eaten for several days, Huami said, "But I don't want your garrison either. You have too many rules. It's boring. You can't fight with others, you can't kill or burn people. So what's the point of bringing a team to garrison? It also hinders Huami's freedom." Gong Yi was eating noodles, his cheeks were bulging, and his dimples were faintly visible. He pointed at Huami with his chopsticks. "Look, you've chosen it. So what do you think would be more exciting?" "Me." Huami really thought about it. She rested her elbows on the armrests of the chair, supported her chin with one hand, and made a pistol gesture with the other hand. "I want this. If anyone doesn't listen to me, my people will rush up with machine guns and shoot, 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 shoot." That's a nice thought. Gong Yi gave Huami 3 words. The garrison is the most disciplined team in the world and is different from the gangsters. He finished the noodles in a few bites and felt his stomach warm. "Where are the supplies you want to pick up? I'll have someone deliver them to you. Hurry back to the city. What are you doing wandering around outside?" Huami ignored him, stood up, put away the small pot, went to the kitchen to wash the pot, and said to Gong Yi, just focus on your rescue and maintaining order. You don't need to worry about other things. After washing the pot in a few seconds, Huami opened the bathroom door and took out a raincoat. I'll go take a look around. If you're tired, you can take a nap in my car. As she was talking, Huami put on her raincoat and prepared to park the car here. Gong Yi and the others were running all over the mountains anyway, so if anyone was tired, they could come here to rest. Gong Yi raised his hand to stop her. He raised his drooping eyes and looked at Huami. Okay, if you don't let me care, I won't care about you that much. Then how did you get in touch with me last time? You have to tell me. After saying that, he acted like a scoundrel. Huami, we have known each other for such a long time. I don't want you to be the same as those two women next time I see you. There were stars twinkling in Gong Yi's deep eyes. He was sitting on the chair and was actually not much shorter than Huami. Huami opened her lips, flipped her hand inside her raincoat, took out a cartoon universal signal connector, searched around, and found a big red angry bird with bared fangs and claws. Here, stick this on the back of your phone, and you'll be able to call me no matter where I am. She pressed the angry bird on Gong Yi's forehead, and while he was reaching out to take it off, she had already jumped lightly out of the nanny car. Standing in the rain, Huami smiled and looked back at Gong Yi inside. This little bird looks a lot like you. When he knocked on her car door, his momentum seemed to explode. Gong Yi looked at the sticker on his phone and couldn't help but sneer. Huami was a naughty girl. As she walked away and disappeared in the rain, he took out his new phone and pasted the angry little red bird on the back of the phone. Not to mention, the cell phone signal instantly reached full bars. It's magical. Huami had rested for a night and was full of energy. She quickly approached the section of the road where the tanker was stuck. There was an entire road filled with tanker trucks, probably hundreds of them. Because this batch of tankers were transferred from the neighboring city, if the road in Changqing is blocked, they can actually return to the neighboring city. But the problem is that the retreat route of more than 100 tanker trucks was also cut off by a huge landslide. For safety reasons, the drivers of the tanker trucks have already evacuated this section of road, and specific rescue measures need to be discussed further. There was no one on the rainy road except Huami. She jumped off the overturned mountain and walked along the winding national road, storing the tanker truck in the level 10 storage. Turn on security scan. Completion of Security and Defense Works Defense Project Rating. Completed the construction of 2 square meters of black soil wall rating. Basic Protection Project get 5 square meters of black land. Please choose a site for the black land. Win a lucky draw X1. Just as Huami was happily collecting oil tankers, a page of letters appeared on her screen. She stopped. The 2 square meters of black soil were placed in the square of the rescue center. Originally, Huami thought that these 2 square meters of black soil would form her independent supermarket system, but she didn't expect that a wall would be built next to the black soil, which could be considered a security defense project. Huami was immediately very happy. She had already thought about what she was going to plant this time. Last time she planted some fruits, so this time she would plant some rice. Anyway, it has been raining every day recently, which is annoying, so I just plant rice. She thought happily and drew the new lottery ticket. Obtain orange tree growth speed X120. Time limit 30 days. What? Huami was struck by this award and hurriedly brought up the black soil panel and saw that the orange tree pattern on it was rapidly changing into color at an extremely exaggerated speed. She was shocked and quickly clicked a button to harvest. Huami, don't throw orange peels around. Pick up the garbage and put it behind my RV. I can use it. Huami. In addition, the boys are in the growth stage, so midnight snacks are also necessary. Each of them can have a self-heating hot pot as a midnight snack every day. Gong Yi was on his way to a rescue mission when he received Huami's message and replied with a few dots speechlessly. This is good. I can't escape the fate of having stir-fried vegetables for 3 meals a day, and I have to add a small hot pot with dark mustard flavor as a midnight snack at night. That's not all. We have to eat 100 oranges a day? Gong Yi ran for a while and felt that he couldn't let this woman go on like this anymore. Otherwise, she would really treat the garrison and rescue team like pigs. So he stopped and quickly sent her a voice message. Gong Yi, how many oranges did you buy? Huami, a lot, a lot, a lot. Huami also sent a voice message back. During the time she was talking to Gong Yi, she had harvested tens of thousands of oranges. If this continues, the oranges will be poisoned. Gong Yi, then did you buy the meat last time I asked you to? Huami chose not to reply to the message, because she forgot about it. After she had stored all the tanker trucks on the road into the level 11 warehouse, she called the agricultural trade giant. She wants to buy frozen meat. This tycoon is also a very impressive person, he said with a smile. I can still get a few tons of frozen meat, but the car can't enter Shangqing. Huami also smiled. Whether we can enter Shangqing is our business. Just bring the frozen meat. If you find any problem, please tell me. The other party paused and sighed. At times like this, I can truly appreciate the benefits of having garrisons in my hands. Ordinary teams did not dare to leave the city at all. I heard that the mountains were loose due to continuous rain and earthquakes. Recently, many people were not buried in earthquakes, but in landslides. If an ordinary person leaves the city and is trapped in a landslide, mudslide, or something like that, and the rescue team is unable to arrive in time, he or she will die. But garrison is different. The overall mobility of garrison is good. It is the best time to use garrison to transport supplies. The giant was becoming more and more polite to Huami. Miss Hua, there are so many of you. How can a few tons of meat be enough for you? Will the rescue team kill chickens, ducks, and fish? I can get you a lot of these living things. I have connections in the next city. I can get you live chickens, ducks, fish, pigs, cattle, sheep, and even chicks, ducks, and fish. Because of the natural disaster, these living creatures in the neighboring city have no market. With each passing day, these living creatures continue to grow, die, and consume various feeds. Therefore, the giant's acquaintance in the neighboring city is eager to get rid of these burdens. Huami thought about it for a moment. Wait for me. Then, she hung up the phone with the giant and called Hua Jing. Do your relatives know how to dig fish ponds? On the other end of the phone, Hua Jing asked about his relatives. After a few words, Hua Jing replied to Huami, meeting. Huami immediately hung up Hua Jing's phone and called the giant back with a smile. I want all the poultry, fish fry, etc. you have. I'll take whatever you offer. It would take many years for the animals and plants to mutate, and before that, humans would have to go through countless natural and man-made disasters. It would be enough for Huami to raise this batch of poultry and then slaughter and eat them. I was discussing the price of live poultry with the tycoon when he asked, I heard that you have a lot of tarpaulins and mineral water? You can even get medical supplies? Yes, how much do you want? Huami also smiled. When it comes to doing business, resource exchange is the kingly way. I need 60,000 tarpaulins, 1 million bottles of mineral water, and 10,000 of each type of medical supplies. I have another request. I hope to use the garrison to transport these things out of Shangqing. The giants are people who do big business. Their cars go out in the rain, so they need to use waterproof tarpaulins. Especially for those who deal in vegetable, rice, and flour business, 60,000 tarpaulins are very few. In this kind of rainy weather, waterproof tarpaulin has become a scarce commodity for many peers. Mineral water is also in urgent need, and the agricultural trade giant plans to find a way to transport it out of Shangqing and sell it to the neighboring city. Huami stood on the empty road and said to the giant, the garrison can't lend it to you, but I can find a way to clear a path for you. If you get blocked while using this road, you can call me and I will clear it for you. Also, I have lots and lots of oranges here. Would you like to buy a few tons? As she spoke, she released her nanny car from the level 11 storage and drove forward. If she encountered fallen trees, landslides, or fallen boulders, she would stop the car and recycle these obstacles into the garbage station. Recycling, Mud X1, Conversion Energy X 0.00001 Recycling, Tree X1, Conversion Energy X 0.001 Recycling, Stone X1, Conversion Energy X 0.00001 These mud, fallen rocks, trees, and the like can generate a little more energy than the garbage created by humans. When the giant heard on the phone that Huami still had oranges, he happily agreed. He wanted to buy a few tons and sell them in the next city. After confirming the details with the giant, Huami gave the giant the address of Lianhua Xingxing Supermarket and asked him to send someone to the underground garage next to it to drag mineral water, tarpaulins, medical supplies, and oranges. Then he cleared all obstacles along the way and returned to Xiangqing. Once they entered the edge of Xiangqing, they would be easily discovered. So Huami called Jing and asked him to find some more relatives to form a clearance team to symbolically clear the road outside Xiangqing. Jing shouted at the top of his voice on the other end of the phone, "Miss Hua, we don't know how long it will take to clear the ruins in the city. Why are we thinking of clearing the outside of the city?" He couldn't understand how long it would take to clean up such a vast area outside the city. Could it be cleaned up in a lifetime? Even if Huami had a lot of supplies, he couldn't waste them like this. Huami seemed to be confident. "I just want to ensure that one road is unobstructed. You have dozens of relatives driving around on this road all day long. If they encounter garbage, they can drag it to a fixed garbage dump and I will arrange for people to clean it up. By the way, aren't you guys building a bunker for me now? There's a lot of garbage in our neighborhood, right? Don't just pile it up in the city. Take it to the unified garbage station outside the city. The treatment is still the same as what we agreed on before. On this basis, I will give you 100 extra oranges per day. Please don't throw the orange peels away. We need to pay attention to environmental protection now." I was actually very depressed for a while. I was completely in a state of depression, and it took a lot of effort to maintain a normal life. So you won't understand how many mountains and rivers I have crossed to appear before you this time. I actually want to say more, but I don't want to spread too much negative energy. Jing stood on a ruin, looking at the broken walls and ruins all around him. In this environment, Miss Hua actually told him to be environmentally friendly. He felt that his life might be a little magical. There were also people who worked for Miss Hua whose daily wages were increased by 100 oranges each. Jing wondered if he was hallucinating. There are no fruits to be found in Xiangqing now. The only place selling fruits is Huami's RV supermarket in the rescue center. An orange is sold for 19.9, and even at this price, many people are still scrambling to buy oranges. It can be seen to what extent the fruit shortage is. But as long as we clear the obstacles for Miss Hua, everyone will get 100 oranges every day. Is it true that whoever gets the supplies gets the world? Jing. Jing, what are you doing? A contractor with a mouthful of gold teeth climbed up the ruins with his ace sticking out, wearing the same colorful flashing goggles as Jing. Seeing that Jing was still in a daze, he took out his safety helmet and hit Jing on the back. Jing seemed to be awakened. He came to his senses and told the contractor what Huami had said to him. "That's great. That's great." The contractor slapped his thigh and said happily, "You've got the right thigh. You know, the city's obstacle removal team is too busy now, so it's our turn to step in. I tell you, your uncles and aunts are all out of work, so let's call them all." Jing, who was wearing a raincoat, ignored the relative's excitement. He looked worried. "Miss Hua, if you continue like this, won't your family go bankrupt?" He was very worried. In this world, who wouldn't want to stock up more supplies? With Huami's way of spending money, no amount of supplies would be enough to support her. Jing is an upright man, and he is worried about Huami. But the contractor had another idea. He hooked Jing's shoulder and said, "Don't worry about Miss Hua. I've asked around about the person behind Miss Hua. You know Gong Yi? He's a very tough guy. He got 10 billion when the earthquake just happened. How could he be short of supplies? Don't make me laugh." Compared to Jing, who was worried about these trivial things, the contractor pointed to the mist in front of him and said, "I'm telling you, Jing, you should worry about our real problems. This thing is a bit weird. Do you see it? I've never seen such a thick mist. If it's thicker, we can take a bath in it." These people who work outside all year round are very sensitive to the weather and nature. Although the rain is not heavy, it accumulates and will always have a great impact on human life. Especially the rain that fell did not accumulate much on the ground, and I haven't seen any roads in the city with deep water. The water just floated in the air, making the fog thicker and thicker. If it gets thicker, wouldn't the whole city be like being submerged in water? And this is what a small person like Jing should worry about. In the Xiangqing Temporary Rescue Center shrouded in fog, Huami was driving into the city. After she collected the tanker truck and the garbage, she had to go back to the city to find a doctor to check her out. Huami will always be worried until this matter is resolved. Just after crossing the city boundary, we saw that the garrison had set up a checkpoint on the road. When they saw Huami's car coming, 2 guards immediately came out of the checkpoint and stretched out their hands to ask the car to stop. Huami opened the car window, and the garrison outside smiled and said, "Sister Hua, you're back? Well, what is this for?" Huami gestured to this level, not understanding what this was doing. The garrison outside the window answered enthusiastically. "The boss said that a lot of people have come to our Shangqing recently. We need to check everyone coming in and out to make sure no evil people come in." Gong Yi was stimulated by the incident between Daifeng and Feng Xian. Especially in the current environment, he could still control the situation inside the city, but he really couldn't control the situation outside the city. So he shared the population electronic archive from the Shangqing Police Archive to the garrison here. Everyone entering or leaving the city must have their pupils scanned, register with their real name, and have their criminal record checked. Other criminal records will be paid special attention to. Great job. Huami couldn't help but silently give Gong Yi a thumbs up in her heart. This guy was really born to be a boss. Things that others would take several years to react to after the apocalypse, Gong Yi accomplished in the first 2 months. If he continues investigating like this, Shangqing's crime rate will be the lowest in the entire apocalypse. In the driver's seat of the nanny car, Huami took off her goggles and blinked her fox eyes with slightly hooked ends. "Then you sweep it for me." "Sister Hua, I'm sorry, this is our discipline." The garrison said this, took out the scanner apologetically, and scanned Huami's pupils. Although everyone knows that Huami's file is very clean, discipline is discipline, and discipline is rigid, especially for the garrison led by Gong Yi. 1 is 1 and 2 is 2. No special treatment will be given to anyone. Well, except when Sister Hua was fighting, I didn't see it. I understand. Come, eat the orange. Huami put on her goggles with a smile. At this moment, she had not done anything illegal, so there would be no problem for her to enter the city. After that, she took out a big bag of oranges from the car and stuffed them out of the window. "Eat them. You're welcome. I have more after you finish them. Eat more to supplement your vitamin C." A large bag full of oranges got stuck in the window when it was being stuffed out, and it was only with the help of the garrison outside that the window was pulled out. And at this moment, Huami is still harvesting oranges. Now every harvest produces hundreds of thousands of oranges. How long has it been? As soon as the checkpoint was opened and Huami just entered the city, Gong Yi's message came. "And condoms, what exactly is this thing used for?" Huami couldn't figure it out. In the last lottery, X100000 was drawn. Hu Jing and the contractor, 2 big enemies, sold X10,000 each. There are still X80,000 condoms left that have not been sold. This time, she was given a limited production of X10,000. Are they going to make humans extinct? Huami angrily sent a message to Gong Yi. "Huami, orange juice? What do you think of giving your garrison 30 bottles of 1L orange juice every day?" Gong Yi, come on. Eat 100 oranges a day and drink 30 bottles of orange juice. Are you crazy? That she is crazy? Huami was so angry that she chose not to reply to the message. Keep driving. After a while, the nanny car drove for a while, and Gong Yi sent another message. "Gong Yi, I have a few more injured people here. I want to send them to your place to help take care of them." "Huami, more money. I want nursing fees." Huami stopped the car and went to the roadside to reply to Gong Yi's message. "There's no way. If she gets pregnant, she will be 2 people now. It doesn't matter how I bump into her. The little one in her belly is so fragile. So she even drives very carefully and has to stop the car to send a message. Gong Yi, you can pay the bill yourself, just don't let us eat oranges anymore." Huami. Huami didn't want to pay attention to him anymore because her level 11 storage was about to be blown up by Juzi. So Huami quickly made orange juice X10,000. To make orange juice, you need to consume oranges. If you can't sell these oranges externally, you can only consume some of them internally first. Then, Huami now has to find a place to house the 5 square meters of blackland. Otherwise, the supporting facilities will be incomplete, and after the level 11 storage is full, there will be no way to upgrade. By then, there will be no place to store the oranges, and they will ripen and fall off automatically, flooding her Lotus Shangqing supermarket. Huami didn't dare to click on the Lottery X1 to upgrade the level 9 factory, so she could only stay there for now. Otherwise, if I give her another orange tree growth speed X120, time limit, 30 days, she will probably go crazy. As the car drove along, Huami stopped the car and greeted any patrol officers she encountered along the way. Then, give them a bag of oranges. Greeting is secondary, giving oranges is primary. When they drove to the rescue center, Huami got out of the car, called Dafu and Xiaofu, and quickly carried down the nanny car full of oranges. They are all put outside the RV supermarket for sale. Seeing this, Yurong, who was weaving a straw mat in the RV, said with a sore tooth, "The oranges you made last time sold well, but didn't you make too many this time? 19.9 each. What if you can't sell them?" A few days ago, when Huami left the rescue center, she dragged a flatbed truck full of oranges. It sold out pretty quickly because no one else was selling fruit in Xiangqing. However, no matter how fast they sell, they cannot resist the saturation of the market. Once the market is saturated, no one will buy the oranges and they will just rot, which is a pity. Huami thought about it and felt the same way. Then lower the price to 9.9 each and offer a discount for promotion. As long as she could hold on for a month, the pressure on her level 11 storage would be reduced. The most urgent task was to consume the oranges quickly. Thinking of this, Huami gave Chao Feng another instruction, asking him to get a truckload of oranges to deliver to the people. This was a temporary rescue center, so some should also be sent to Kaminghong's place. Chao Feng drove a truck loaded with oranges and took a tour outside, delivering a large bag of oranges to the medical staff in the emergency area and several guards on duty. This was what Huami told everyone before she left. Every garrison member must eat 2 oranges every day. Now the plan has changed. Huami has announced that everyone must eat 100 oranges every day, and medical care must be included. This is totally impossible to do. There was no way to count the 100 oranges distributed to each person, and the workload was too large for Chao Feng to handle it alone, so he could only give a bag to each person he met. There is no way to count how much is in a pocket. The garrison accepted it with a bitter face. The medical staff were busy and didn't really listen to what Chao Feng said. But when they saw someone giving them oranges, they happily accepted them. When he came back, Chao Feng saw Huami, Dafu and Xiaofu pulling the tarpaulin in the misty drizzle. He hurried over and said, "Sister Hua, let me help." Before Huami could open her mouth to refuse, Chao Feng quickly grabbed the tarpaulin and spread it out together with Huami, Dafu, and Xiaofu. Huami saw that he moved quickly and didn't look like an injured person at all, so she stopped talking about wanting him to rest. She just gestured to a few people and told them to build a shed between the RV and the bus to form a temporary courtyard. When I first came back, I felt that visibility was getting lower and lower outside the city. When I drove into the city, I found that the air quality in our area was good. Huami sat in the RV and pulled out a straw mat to play with. As she walked into the city, she found that Xiangqing seemed to be shrouded in steam. If she hadn't been wearing goggles, she wouldn't have been able to see the road 5 meters ahead. But when we got near the RV, visibility became noticeably better, and there was moisture everywhere outside, but it was very dry in the RV and the bus. Yes, so now many people come to ask if we have goggles and respirators for sale. Yirong also thought that the mist was too thick. I heard that the dehumidification function of the air conditioner in the emergency area is turned on 24 hours a day. The earthquake has finally stopped, but the drizzle is falling again. The mist is quite annoying. Chao Feng stood outside the awning of the RV. The film on his face was so dry that it peeled off. He sighed, "I don't know when this will end. We're just getting started. Just bear with it and be prepared that the world will never get better." Huami lowered her head and played with the straw in her hand. She wanted to say something encouraging, but she felt that it was useless to lie to them. She said that they would be fine after enduring this period. No, this was just the beginning. If they were not mentally prepared for a long-term battle, they would collapse in a few months. At the beginning of the end of the world, many people developed psychological problems because of this. They felt that there was no hope in life at all, and finally chose to commit suicide. You should not expect hope, but just adjust your mindset, abandon the good life in the past, work hard to welcome the end of the world, and it would be best to adapt to it. Silence, a depressing silence, echoed in the RV supermarket team. Huami explained to Chao Feng why she had to set up a temporary oilcloth tent. Because Chao Feng and Tang Yu were wounded soldiers on the garrison, Huami originally did not intend to tell them about these things, so as not to affect the recovery of both people. But when Huami saw Chao Feng's ability to run and jump, she still told him. After all, when the wounded were sent over, Chao Feng and Tang Yu would also know about it. The two of them also have to help take care of the wounded in the rescue team. Chao Feng was just stunned for a moment and stopped talking. He helped Huami pull the oilcloth over the tractor and created a square space between the RV and the bus. He then quietly went to the open-air supermarket outside the RV to help place bottles of mineral water on the empty shelves. Behind the RV and the bus is a large wall built by Hu Jing and his men, which has now been used as a warehouse. There was a tarpaulin stretched over the perimeter wall, which worked quite well, so not a single drop of rain seeped into the warehouse. Seeing that Chao Feng was busy, Huami went into the walled warehouse and piled 1,000 bottles of orange juice in the corner. Condoms, self-heating hot pot, dark mustard flavor, respirators, 4 children, respirators, 4 adults, mineral water, all specifications, newborn onesies, Xiao Chai Hu granules, Qingxin Mingmu tea, baby diapers, and folic acid in quantities of 10,000 each were also piled up in the walled warehouse. This open-air supermarket sells mineral water of various specifications and has always been Huami's best source of income. But she also has a lot to do, and often the speed at which mineral water is put on the shelves cannot keep up with the speed at which she sells the water. During this period, Huami felt that she was sleepy, greedy, and a little lazy, and didn't want to do heavy work. So the shelves outside the RV are often sold out. Once they are sold out, they are empty. She doesn't want to move the empty shelves around and fill them with mineral water. So Dafu and Xiaofu became her best children's assistants. In the past, when there were no walled warehouses, Huami could only drive a flatbed truck out for a while, find a corner where there was no one and no surveillance, place dozens of boxes of mineral water on the flatbed truck, and then drag it back to the RV. Dafu and Xiaofu would come up to help. Later, Chao Feng rushed to do the job of putting goods on the shelves of the RV. Now it is even more convenient. With the walled warehouse, Huami only needs to get a big truck and transport the supplies into the walled warehouse. In fact, no one knew exactly how much supplies were transported into the walled warehouse. Chao Feng was wearing a raincoat made of waterproof oilcloth by Yirong, and he quickly placed mineral water, oranges, and other goods on the shelves. Only half of the water was put on display when someone came to buy water. There was a man holding a bottle of water in his hand. When he saw Chao Feng turning around, he was so scared that the bottle in his hand fell to the ground. Perhaps because he knew that he looked a little ugly, Chao Feng avoided the expression and turned his face away. The man couldn't help but said angrily, "You look like this. Don't you have any sense of self-awareness? Don't come out to scare people, okay?" Chao Feng didn't say anything. His body hunched over, a feeling of inferiority and shame sweeping over his heart. It was as if it was really his fault that he ran out and showed up in public after being burned like this. The man was still cursing. "I was really frightened by this monster-like man. You're wearing a raincoat. What are you doing here? The Hunchback of Notre Dame?" Before he could finish his words, Huami, who was standing behind him, slapped him on the ear, causing his head to tilt to the side. Huami kicked him in the lower back and cursed, "You look like a human, but other than your big mouth, there's nothing human about you." She highly suspected that she was pregnant. She really didn't want to move and just wanted to find a place to stay, but this man's mouth was too annoying. Huami kicked the man a few times and was hugged by Gongyi behind her. Before Huami could be surprised, Gongyi appeared. He hugged her slender waist from behind, lifted her up, put her aside, took a few steps forward, picked up the man on the ground, and said coldly, "Do you know who you were scolding? Huh, why is he like this? Because he rescued countless people from the ruins and was blown up by the gas tanks in the ruins. You are so wicked in your words." Gongyi grabbed the other person's collar and punched him. Don't let the heroes who save people feel that this world is not worth living. With another punch, Gongyi successfully made this bad-mouthed man have a pair of panda eyes. Huami stood aside and watched. Beside her, Dafu and Xiaofu, wearing small raincoats, clapped their hands in joy. Good fight. Yeah, we beat up the bad guy. Kill him, kill him. It is not allowed to beat someone to death. The most you can do is beat them into a pig's head. Because of discipline. Huami rolled her eyes and watched Gongyi beat the talkative man away. One day, Discipline would kill these garrisons and lifeguards. It was just like that in my previous life. The garrisons and lifeguards who knew well that they should not charge, but under the wrong command of the management, sent their lives in groups into natural disasters and man-made calamities. I knew that going forward would mean death, but I still went forward without hesitation, because that is their discipline. Gong Yi turned around and helped the hunched Chao Feng straighten up. Stand up straight. What are you afraid of? You haven't done anything shameful. You can be worthy of the conscience of heaven and earth. Why are you shrinking? Just stand up straight. We are heroes. Why should we be afraid of the evil spirits and monsters? He patted Chao Feng's shoulders. Holding the back of Chao Feng's neck again, Gong Yi leaned his forehead against Chao Feng's forehead, wishing to pour the ideas in his mind into Chao Feng's head. Brother, we can't hide in the dark forever. You are the pride of the rescue team and the pride of all of us. You must live like a human being. The boss will always be watching you, and live like a human being. So what if I have a face that is completely unrecognizable? No one has stipulated that exposing a face like this to the sun is illegal, right? It's not this face that is ugly. What's ugly are those people who know the truth and start to mock and ridicule others, saying that this face is unsightly. This kind of thing will not happen only once, but many times. Many strange looks and many uncomfortable words will always be around Chao Feng. No one knows what happened to Chao Feng. So since no one knows anything, why can't he hold off on speaking or blasting? Yes, Chao Feng stood up straight. His eyes were red, and the hemostatic gel on his face made him look as if he was covered with a layer of transparent plastic wrap. But on such an embarrassed and strange face, there was a light of determination. People who live seriously are always the most beautiful. Huami couldn't help but smile like an auntie. Seeing Gong Yi and Chao Feng looking at her, she gave Chao Feng a thumbs up. What a great guy. You must work hard, be optimistic, and live strong. I really like a reader's comment on my apocalyptic writings. She said that Bao Bao Zi's apocalyptic writings always have a positive and vigorous feeling amidst their world-weary tone. Behind Gong Yi were 3 lifeguards covered in mud. When they were dug out of the mud, the 3 of them were almost dying, so they were quickly sent to Huami Tengyu. The factory director, Yirong, Da Fu, and Xiaofu also came out to help. Ah Fu is still injured. He was beaten and his muscles and bones were broken, so he can't move. He could only watch others busying themselves and could not help in any way. After Gong Yi finished explaining the matter to Chao Feng, he turned around and saw Huami carrying 2 sacks of oranges, standing next to the full shelves, looking at him with a smile on her face. Gong Yi frowned, walked to Huami, put one hand on the back of her neck. There's an SOS, it's urgent. I'm leaving now. Please take good care of yourself. Orange. Huami, smiling, raised her hands and placed 2 sacks of oranges in front of Gong Yi. Seeing Gong Yi's indescribable expression, she smiled cutely and kindly and asked word by word, gritting her teeth, "You don't want to answer? I'll bring you something to eat. Eat, eat, eat. Sister Hua gave it to me. How could I not eat it?" Gong Yi had an expression of unbearable pain on his face. He reached out and took the 2 sacks of oranges, holding one in each hand. Run very fast. He didn't care about Huami. What was there to care about? He just had to be obedient first, and then he would see whether she could eat it or not, whether she could finish it or not, and whether she could finish it by herself. Isn't it necessary to say something else? The lifeguards who were carrying people behind them saw that the boss had run away, so they lowered their heads and tried to slip past Sister Hua's blind spot. But, is it possible? Huami tilted her head and shouted, "De Fu Xiao Fu." 2 children rushed out quickly, each dragging 2 large sacks, which were full of oranges. Regardless of whether all the oranges can be eaten or not, the garrison and rescue teams must receive at least 100 oranges per person per day. But, since these garrison lifeguards have all returned to the city, how can they leave the city empty-handed? Sister Hua must give them some local specialties to take out of the city, right? So, when the lifeguards arrived, they carried the wounded on stretchers. When he left, there were several sacks of oranges on the stretcher. It was very magical. Waving a handkerchief, Huami saw off Gong Yi, who was carrying 2 sacks of oranges, and the lifeguards who were leaving with several sacks of oranges. She turned around and looked towards the emergency area. Huami put on her raincoat and told the people in the car, I'm going to go out and see if there are any humidifiers for sale. Look at what you guys have done. You have to be adults to do it. Even though it was raining so hard, there were still people coming out to set up stalls. Dafu and Xiaofu behind them quickly put on their raincoats and said, Sister Hua, we want to go too. They need to go out for a walk, otherwise they will keep pulling at their cracked lips. Huami had no objection to this and walked with the two children through the misty rain. Oh my God, this is exactly what Huami needs now. Look at how dry Xiaofu's mouth is. Look at how dry the skin on Dafu's face is. Look at the static electricity on Huami's hair. Buy it. Buy it quickly. Huami walked over with an umbrella and was about to ask the stall owner how much these moisturizing skincare products cost. She saw the stall owner put up a sign on the stall, sale of famous brand skincare products. Huami said this, waving his hand casually, with heroic spirit. Big and small, count how many kinds there are here and buy them all. The two children immediately and obediently went into the rain and started counting. They didn't care what they were, cream, essence, or gel. As long as the boss said they were 1 yuan each, they just counted them. The stall owner looked at Huami as if she was an idiot. The emergency center was looking for dehumidifiers at high prices, so he set up a stall here to sell hydrating skincare products, but after 2 days, no one came to inquire. Huami, however, is going all in on these hydrating skincare products. What is that if not stupid? Finally, I counted them and took the samples with me. There are about 30,000 kinds of skincare products on this stall. The stall owner said to Huami with sympathy, just pay 30,000 yuan. Although the purchase price of these brand-name skincare products of mine is more than 100,000 yuan, forget it. I need the money to buy medical supplies. Medical supplies? Hey, I have them. Boss, let's exchange resources. Huami smiled and started negotiating the price with the boss. She didn't sell it at a high price, including a respirator, ethanol, painkillers, sterile gauze, and hemostatic gel, 8 pieces each. In exchange for the pile of brand-name skincare products on the stall owner's stall. The stall owner agreed without even thinking about it. He just came from the next city, which is really short of medical supplies. Needless to say, the situation there is dire. And the city next door is just a microcosm. It reflects that the whole world is in a state of shortage of medical care and medicine. But after seeing the medical supplies that Huami took out of her bag, which looked like 3 no products, the stall owner's face suddenly fell. It was obvious that the stall owner had just entered the rescue center not long ago and didn't understand the situation inside. He silently took out a bottle of ethanol and smelled it, then asked with some doubt, Beautiful lady, where did you get these medical supplies? They weren't made by some unqualified small workshop, were they? How come there's not even a manufacturer on this bottle? I won't even mention whether these things are worth 30,000 yuan. But won't anyone die if they're used? Huami took out a stack of UN-certified documents from her big bag and handed it to the stall owner. If you make fake goods, I'll punish you tenfold. If someone dies because of my stuff, look, you see, my stall is right there, in the RV stall in the square. Just come find me. She said she was so-and-so and took out a whole stack of information, but it didn't prove anything. But Huami said that the RV stall was hers, and the stall owner immediately smiled. Oh, you should have told me earlier. You are a person with a background. We who run small businesses will have to rely on you to take care of us in the future. Who among those who set up stalls outside the rescue center doesn't know about the RV stall? The entire rescue center is guarded by this RV stall. Even if Huami is not there, no one dares to take a penny for free. Since Huami said she was the owner of the RV stall, the quality of her things was naturally guaranteed. In other words, even if the quality is not guaranteed, there is no need to worry about not being able to find someone. The stall owner happily accepted the pile of medical supplies, and then heard Huami say, Do you want some oranges? I'll give them to you. Seeing Huami being so generous, the skincare stall owner felt embarrassed and started chatting with Huami. More than half of our city collapsed overnight. We couldn't save people. We had medicine at first, but because the roads were blocked, we couldn't get it in. Xiangqing was the first city to be hit by the earthquake. When the neighboring city started to shake, medical supplies donated by all walks of life were pouring into Xiangqing. By the time people in Xiangqing had begun to get used to earthquakes, They had already begun to spread to various cities like a plague. In every city, a large number of people were injured or even killed. Every city needs medical supplies. In comparison, Chongqing is indeed the city with the lowest mortality rate. That's because many of the people who died were not killed by the earthquake, but because the medical supplies did not arrive in time and they were killed by their injuries. Many smart people have noticed this trend, and those who can come to Chongqing, including those with families, are rushing to Chongqing. This is in stark contrast to the situation not long ago, when people in Chongqing were leaving the city with their families, some even selling their belongings in order to leave Chongqing. Look at me, I can't stop talking to you. The vendor selling skincare products packed his luggage and put the dozen oranges Huami gave him in his pocket. My son is still in the emergency room. Thank you for the orange. I'm leaving now. After saying that, the stall owner ran to the emergency area, where his child was lying. He was lucky today. Not only did he sell all his skincare products, but he also got a dozen oranges. He has to give it to his son to try. Huami looked at his back as he left, shook her head slowly, asked Dafu to take the hydrating skincare products back, and she continued to visit the stalls with Xiaofu. As roads outside cities are blocked and logistics become increasingly difficult, online shopping is no longer a reality. What we are competing for now is probably the amount of material reserves in each city. In cities with insufficient reserves, chaos will soon emerge. There will also be more and more survivors like the skincare product stall owners running to Chongqing from other cities. Because for now, Chongqing's material reserves are still quite sufficient. Even if some food supplies are short, don't we still have Huami's oranges to back us up? If people are really so hungry that they want to eat tree bark and mud, they have to eat oranges no matter how bad they taste. This reminded Huami of the checkpoint Gong Yi had set up at the city gate. Huami stopped and turned to Xiaofu and said, "Go back and tell Uncle Xiaofeng to prepare a big truck. We will go to the city gate to sell oranges." With Gong Yi's checkpoint there must be a lot of people outside who cannot enter the city, at least not in a short period of time. The survivors had traveled a long way, tired and hungry. When they saw oranges being sold at the city gate, wouldn't they rush up to grab them? By then, the sales of Huami's oranges will definitely be good. Xiaofu responded and ran away quickly. After sending the two children away, Huami had already arrived at the door of the emergency area. The little nurse was eating an orange at the door. Didn't Xiaofeng come over and give each of the medical staff in the emergency area a bag of oranges? The young nurse decided to eat 2 oranges every day to supplement vitamin C and whiten her skin. Hai Huami took out a bag of oranges from her bag, greeted the nurse with a smile, and stuffed the bag of oranges in her hand into the nurse's hand. You're welcome. Eat more. Eat it all in one day. Come to my place and get more after get off work." No. Sister Hua, you already gave us a bag." The nurse tried hard to swallow the orange slices, refusing to accept Huami's kindness. To be honest, she didn't eat dinner today. She only ate 2 oranges, because her stomach was only so big, and after taking vitamin C, she couldn't eat rice. Here. Why are you being so polite to me?" Huami enthusiastically stuffed the bag of oranges into the bag and walked into the emergency area. Whenever she met medical staff along the way, she would give them oranges. She sent him all the way to the emergency area, but before she found Kaming Hong, a bloody person suddenly rushed out from the cubicle in front. Huami took a look and found that it was Daifeng. Daifeng woke up, her eyes were crazy, holding a piece of glass in her hand, and she shouted, Feng Xian, where are you? Come out. Feng Xian, why did you push me? I was kind enough to save you, but you pushed me down the mountain. Feng Xian, the medical staff around wanted to get closer, but she swept them with a piece of glass. Don't touch me. None of you are a good person. Don't touch me. Feng Xian, come out. She scratched herself madly with the pieces of glass, not allowing anyone to get close to her. With every movement she made, the wounds on her body would burst open, spilling a large amount of blood. A doctor nearby felt very strange and whispered to the nurse, "Where on earth did you get this painkiller? It works better than anesthetics." In fact, Daifeng could not survive. Her injuries were not only external, because she fell from the mountain, but more internal. Originally, she couldn't move at all, and her entire body's organs were rapidly failing. But after taking a painkiller, Her pain was isolated, and she was able to stand up and run. However, she was burning up the last of her body's energy by this state. If she couldn't calm down in time, she would die soon. Even if she was quieted in time, she would die soon. It was Fong Xian. She couldn't run anymore. I went back to find her, and she started arguing with me. She blamed me for angering them. She blamed me. Dai Fong looked crazy, and her speech was incoherent. Now it seems that she was definitely not conscious. She was scratching everywhere with the glass pieces, and she would hurt anyone who came close to her. She kept shouting. She didn't want to run anymore. So I tried to drag her away, but she pushed me down the mountain. Fong Xian, Fong Xian. I was so good to you, and you pfft. A mouthful of blood spurted out of Dai Fong's mouth. She stopped scratching madly and stood still like a stopped clock. Then, she saw Huami and smiled. You're right. Stay away from her. As soon as she finished speaking, Dai Fong fell to the ground, dead with her eyes open. She is dead. It turns out that not everyone can survive after taking painkillers. Painkillers are not a panacea. Everyone sighed and gathered forward. A doctor in a white coat rushed over, took out a flashlight, and checked Dai Fong's pupils. The time of Dai Fong's death was announced. Huami stood quietly in the distance, watching this farce. This was the second time Dai Fong died in front of her. In her previous life, Dai Fong was killed once by Fong Xian. It's still the same in this life. What could she say? She could only sigh at Dai Fong. Soon a nurse came forward and carried Dai Fong's body away. Gong Yi? Gong Yi, you are so weird. Are you scared by Dai Fong's death? The news from Gong Yi came quickly, because the garrison had already entered the emergency area. So Dai Fong's death in front of Huami was reported to him immediately by the garrison. Huami did not reply to his message. She was just expressing her feelings and was not scared by Dai Fong's death. Considering that she has been fighting in the apocalypse for her whole life, what does this little accident mean? She was just thinking that the end of the world in this life was completely different from the last life. Even the order of natural disasters was different. So where was Gong Yi in his previous life? In the previous life, Shangqing quickly fell into the cold wave, and Gong Yi never appeared at all, let alone setting up checkpoints in Shangqing now. Where did Gong Yi go in his previous life? Did he freeze to death in the cold snap? Or did he die in a rescue operation? Huami felt a little heavy-hearted. In the emergency area filled with injured people, she silently looked for Kaming Hong. Not found. Not only was Kaming Hong missing, but Qin Ziren and Fong Xian, who used to pop up like flies, were nowhere to be seen either. She asked someone, and that person said that Kaming Hong had gone to buy a dehumidifier, and Qin Ziren had been transferred out of the emergency area. Fong Xian naturally followed him and left the emergency area. Because Qin Ziren failed to complete the task of transporting medical supplies into the city, he was transferred from the management and command position of the emergency area. As for where it went, no one knows. No dehumidifier? Huami then felt something was wrong. It seemed that except for the place where the waterproof tarpaulin was, everywhere was misty and wet. So what's wrong with tarpaulins? She thought of the dry RVs and buses, and the waterproof tarpaulins that felt slightly warm to the touch. Wow, Huami suddenly had an inspiration. No wonder Yi Rong, Da Fu, Xiaofu and others who lived in the RV and the bus had peeling skin on their dry faces. In other places, humans are almost unable to breathe due to the thick water vapor, but the RV team still needs to replenish water. Isn't this funny? Huami took out her phone and sent a message to Kaming Hong. Huami, old man, I have a treasure that can remove moisture, 10,000 yuan each. Do you want it? Kaming Hong, you are a little girl, but you are always talking about money. Are you obsessed with money? Why don't you find a good man to marry at such a young age? Why are you so shrewd and mercenary? Huami, do you want it or not? I don't have much. Kaming Hong, yes. Look, just for one simple word yes, or two words no, he still scolded her. This old man Kaming Hong is really a bad guy. Huami, let me make this clear first. My equipment needs to be embedded in the wall and the ground, and requires professional construction. I will send a professional construction team to renovate the entire emergency area for you. You approve the formalities, but don't ask questions and hinder our construction. Kaming Hong, as long as you can achieve the dehumidification effect for our emergency area, I promise not to ask so many questions. Kaminghong gave Huami a military order, and he didn't think there would be any problem with the money. A device with excellent dehumidification effect would cost tens of thousands of dollars, right? Huami's equipment is only 10,000 yuan per sheet. Why is the unit sheet? Kaminghong is a little confused. Anyway, as long as the dehumidification effect is good, this price is cheap. After dealing with Kaminghong, Huami happily called Huijing. Old Hua, I found another job for you. Don't I have a lot of tarpaulins? Decorate them for me. Make some extremely high-end photo frames, and frame each tarpaulin. Yes, they must look very expensive. At least it looks like it's worth the price of 10,000 yuan. After Hua Jing agreed, Huami called Kaminghong again. Hey, old man, where are you? Find me a doctor. Do you think this is a vegetable market? Don't follow Qin Ziren's example. I'm telling you, the medical staff are all busy right now. If you're still alive and kicking, don't make things worse. There's a lot of noise over at Kaminghong's place. He's arguing with someone at the management headquarters. After hastily hanging up the phone with Huami, Kaminghong pounded the table in anger. I said, I need medical supplies, but you don't have them. I need a dehumidifier, but you don't have them either. Now I'm here to solve the funding problem for our emergency department, but you guys cram so many patients in. The space is so small. What on earth do you want to do? At a large round table, several administrators were clinking porcelain cups. Their bodies and hair were wet. In this case, you have to solve the problem yourself. Last time you said you were short of medical supplies. I think it's not bad for you to get some from the garrison. All the administrators in the office laughed. The atmosphere was very relaxed, completely different from the tension and gloom in the emergency area. Kaminghong opened his mouth and originally wanted to say that the emergency area now had sufficient medical supplies, and that he had exchanged the medical supplies that were stockpiled outside the city with Huami. But looking at these administrators with relaxed expressions, he suddenly didn't want to say anything. Okay, Mr. Ku, I know there are difficulties. Who doesn't have difficulties now? So many cities have been affected by disasters. We in Shangqing can't just stand by and watch them die. An administrator stood up, patted Kaminghong on the shoulder, and escorted him out of the office door. Just focus on treating patients and saving lives. Don't worry about these things outside. Gong Yi will take care of the order, and we will take care of the management. Don't worry. And you have to believe in that man called Gong Yi. He is a talented person. When the first earthquake just started, he started to make money and didn't let our Shangqing management system take advantage of a single cent. There is a hint of gloating in the meaning of this statement. Since Gong Yi is capable, let those who are capable on Gong Yi's side do more work. Gong Yi can hold 10 billion yuan firmly in his hands, so it will be no problem for them to provide more medical supplies and save more people. Kaminghong turned around and walked out dejectedly. He walked into the rain in his raincoat, looked up with a miserable smile, and watched the drizzle falling from the sky. It is because of these nosy Shangqing administrators that people feel uneasy. He came here to approve a sum of money to buy a dehumidifier, but the funds were not approved. Instead, these administrators told him that Shangqing decided to accept seriously injured patients from all cities. These people just ask for money without paying, but they take on a lot of work. He is now relying on Huami to have sufficient supplies. If Huami hadn't exchanged medical supplies for him, what would have happened? I'm afraid the emergency area would have been littered with corpses. There are also dehumidifiers. The emergency area needs a lot of them. Otherwise, something big will happen in the emergency department. But Kaminghong didn't get the funding, so how can he pay Huami for the dehumidifier? Are you going home for the Chinese New Year this year? Kaminghong helplessly sent a message to Huami. Kaminghong. Xiaohua, I don't have the money to buy the dehumidifier, but I have to buy it. I have a deposit of 1 million. Do you think it's enough? Huami received such a message inexplicably, and she could really feel Kaminghong's inner despair and collapse through the screen. Huami, what do you think? A dehumidifier costs 10,000. To fill such a large emergency area, I need more than 100 dehumidifiers. I have to put them on the ceiling and the floor. Do you think 1 million is enough? Kaminghong, what should we do? The higher-ups won't approve the funding, and Qin Ziren is missing again. Last time, he owed you hundreds of thousands of dollars for medical supplies. but he was transferred away without even getting approval. Otherwise, Kuming Hong would not have come to the management headquarters in person to ask for money today. Qin Ziren did things without considering the consequences. He just left without saying anything. Not even responsible. If Kuming Hong hadn't needed money to buy a dehumidifier, he wouldn't have known that Qin Ziren had never reported the hundreds of thousands of dollars owed for the garrison. Of course, even if Kuming Hong personally went to the management headquarters and explained clearly what the hundreds of thousands of dollars were used for, the management headquarters still did not approve it. Reason? The reason is that Gongyi has made 10 billion yuan and Gongyi is rich. Kuming Hong, I know that nothing I say now will help. With nowhere else to turn, the only person I can turn to is you, Xiaohua. The emergency room is full of injured people. The current moisture is fatal to them. What else do you want to exchange? Just say it directly. I will cooperate with anything I can do. Huami looked at the text messages on her phone, walked in the rain, and thought for a while. Huami, I need a private doctor who is tight-lipped. The medical skills must be very good, especially with rich experience in obstetrics and gynecology. Huami, after the dehumidification equipment is installed, the emergency area will be very dry. I have a batch of orange juice here, so I hope to get a few vending machines in the emergency area. Huami, I don't have the source of the vending machine. You can find it for me, and I won't pay cash. I can pay you with oranges. Kuming Hong agreed to all the conditions proposed by Huami. Because only Kuming Hong knows that although Xiangqing is now in good order, it can only guarantee the most basic personal safety. In fact, everything is messed up. In the emergency area, several people are sent in every day because of respiratory distress. Kuming Hong believes that this is caused by the excessive moisture in the air. He submitted report after report, but no one paid any attention. It's not that the administrators deliberately ignored such a serious matter, but that they had too many things to consider and they were too comprehensive. Even now, they still have to maintain the glorious image of Xiangqing, taking on all the seriously injured patients in the city. How could they read the reports made by Kuming Hong? After negotiating a deal with Huami, Kuming Hong used all his connections and personally selected dozens of vending machines for Huami. He looked at the 1 or 2 bars of signal on his cell phone and said to Huami who came over, "Are you sure this thing can always be used? You know the situation in Xiangqing. You never know when there will be no signal." The vending machine is connected to a local area network. When others scan the QR code to pay, the amount will be automatically transferred to Huami's account. If there is no signal, those who want to buy things cannot scan the code, and Huami cannot receive the money. Huami just took a walk around the garrison supplies and collected dozens of tons of vegetables. She also secretly put dozens of tons of oranges into the tent where the vegetables were stored. After receiving Kuming Hong's call, she walked over immediately. Because of exercise and wearing a waterproof oilcloth raincoat, her whole body was dry and hot. When Huami arrived, she saw the vending machines towed on the big truck. She drank water frantically and laughed. "Sure, Mr. Ku. If you don't go to treat patients and save lives, you can accompany me to search for supplies. You have the ability to support yourself." There were so many vending machines, the most advanced ones, brand new. I don't know where Kuming Hong got them from. This old man is very efficient and is not afraid to show off his reputation. Kuming Hong glared at Huami. He was wearing a mask and a raincoat. "Answer the question. Don't be so joking with me. If you can't solve the signal problem, it's useless to have this thing." "No problem." Huami smiled and patted the dozens of vending machines one by one. Every time she patted one, she attached a universal signal connector to the machine. "Just look for the things, and I will take care of the rest." She turned around and saw the fox's eyes were full of smiles. "Mr. Ku, please put 10 of these machines in the emergency area and give the rest to me." After saying that, Huami called Chao Feng and asked him to find a few people to move the remaining vending machines to the rescue center. He also instructed Chao Feng to send Afu and Xiaofu to use a trailer to bring the orange juice, newborn onesies, self-heating hot pot, dark mustard flavor, folic acid, mineral water, Xiaochaihu granules, Qingxin Mingmu tea, condoms, respirators, and mineral water from the walled warehouse. She makes sure all the vending machines are fully stocked. Chao Feng agreed immediately and gave Huami a military order. "Sister Hua, I promise to get this done. If anything goes wrong, you can shoot me." This honest young man made Huami couldn't help laughing. She said leisurely, I'm confident that you can handle the rescue center. If there are any mistakes, you won't be shot. You can just eat 10 meals a day, including mustard-flavored hot pot, orange snacks, and orange juice. It would be better to be shot. Chao Feng shuddered, and his gums seemed to ache. Huami hung up Chao Feng's phone happily, turned around and looked at the female doctor following behind Ku Minghong. This is Dr. Xian Qiurushin. She is very experienced in maternal and child health care and has dealt with all kinds of difficult and complicated cases in childbirth. Ku Minghong introduced it with pride. Now all the medical staff in and outside Xiangqing have gathered in the emergency area. Everyone is very busy. I had to work very hard to convince Dr. Xian. The little old man's face was full of a smug expression of praise me quickly. Then he quietly assured Huami, don't worry, Dr. Xian is very tight-lipped. Okay, I don't need to express my gratitude for your kindness. Everything is self-explanatory. Huami patted the old man on the shoulder and stuffed a bag of oranges into his pocket to express his gratitude. Only oranges represent my heart. Hey, there are so many oranges in my office that I haven't eaten yet. Hey, Ku Minghong, holding a heavy bag of oranges, didn't really want it. Really, I don't know why, but I feel like I can see oranges everywhere recently. Whether it's medical staff or garrisons, everyone has 2 oranges in their pockets and they peel and eat them whenever they stop. Is this Ku Minghong's illusion? There seems to be an overabundance of oranges in the rescue center. Huami ignored Ku Minghong's refusal, hooked her arm around Xian Qiuru's shoulder, and walked towards the nanny car parked next to her. Xian Qiuru opened Huami's hook, her thin face full of fatigue. Miss Hua, let's get to the point. What do you want to consult? She didn't like to talk nonsense. There were many pregnant women and children to take care of in the emergency area. Now she just wanted to serve Huami so that she could return to her job. Don't worry. Come and drink your orange juice. I'll be fine soon. Huami asked Xian Qiuru to get into the nanny car. She sat down and stuffed 7 or 8 bottles of orange juice into Xian Qiuru's arms. After scratching her hair again, Huami said embarrassedly, I might be pregnant. I took a pregnancy test and it came back positive. Upon hearing this, Xian Qiuru hurriedly put the pile of orange juice in her arms on the ground. She took out her stethoscope and listened to Huami's heart and lungs, checked her tongue coating and her mental state. You look pretty good. The test paper showed that you were almost right, but we still need to do a detailed full set of examinations. Are you feeling any discomfort now? Huami thought for a moment. She can run and jump, but sometimes she vomits a lot, but not very often. She likes spicy food. So am I pregnant with a boy or a girl? Dr. Xian, I heard that sour food means a boy and spicy food means a girl. So am I pregnant with a girl? Her face was still full of longing, which surprised Xian Qiuru. Xian Qiuru's tense expression relaxed involuntarily. You seem to be looking forward to having a child. This mother is different from the pregnant women in the emergency area. Most of the pregnant women in the emergency area do not plan to have children. Yes, because we don't know when this world will get better, and having a child now will be a burden to everyone. It is also irresponsible to the child. Therefore, every day there are a large number of pregnant women in the emergency area who request abortions. This made Xian Qiuru very uncomfortable. For a woman, the harm of an abortion is devastating. The point is that a large number of miscarriages among pregnant women actually reveal the despair of the entire society. Huami was stunned for a moment. Was she looking forward to it? I can't really say. I never thought of not wanting this child. From the beginning, she suspected that her period had not come and whether she was pregnant. She was more confused because she was not sure whether she was really pregnant, so she was a little confused about the arrival of this child. Xian Qiuru stared at the expression on Huami's face and asked, Where is the baby's father? Have you communicated with him? For many pregnant women, the idea of abortion is first proposed by their husbands, because they do not have the ability to support the life of a newborn in this world. Huami waved her hand nonchalantly. The baby has no father. Not the palace team? Xian Qiuru felt like she had just eaten a big melon. Did she miss some information? Last time Huami beat up so many administrators in the emergency area, Gong Yi clearly defended her and did not pursue the matter of her beating at all. The medical staff in the treatment area were all saying that Gong Yi and Huami were a couple. Huami had an expression of how is it possible. I can say responsibly that it had nothing to do with Gong Yi. Well, let me be honest. I was a little impulsive when I was young. It was the impulsiveness of young people. She was too embarrassed to say that she had spent a lot of money and ordered the most handsome duck in the nightclub. In Huami's memory, this incident happened a lifetime ago. Starting over again in her lifetime, she began to pay the price for her youthful impulsiveness. Now thinking back on my behavior at that time, it was so childish and ridiculous. Huami restrained her expression and added, "Of course it can't be Qin Ziren's. Qin Ziren's genes are not good, and he is too ugly. So the baby shouldn't be ugly." Xian Qiuru, who was already a little confused by Huami Lei, tried to stay calm. She looked apologetic. "I misunderstood. Then, how are you going to feed the baby without a father? I support myself. I will support myself the same way others support me." Huami leaned back in the comfortable airline seat, resting her hands on her belly. "After the examination, Dr. Xian told me that I just needed to know how to raise a child. I've never raised one before. She has the supplies and abilities, can fight and kill monsters. So does it matter who the father of the child is?" Xian Qiuru looked at Huami with an expression as if she was looking at a warrior. "Miss Hua is very strong. Well, then, please come to the emergency room sometime, and I will give you a detailed physical examination." She gave some instructions, then stood up, got out of the nanny car, and turned back to Huami and said, "Don't worry, Miss Hua, I won't tell anyone about this." After all, Huami is now a well-known figure in the rescue center. If the people in the emergency area knew that she was pregnant before marriage, it might cause some trouble. For example, I don't know if Qin Ziren will harass Miss Hua because of this. Huami nodded in satisfaction and stuffed the 7 or 8 bottles of orange juice on the ground back into Xian Qiuru's arms. Take it back and eat it." "Well, I'm so sorry, Xian Qiuru felt like she had met a rich man. She returned to the emergency area with a bunch of orange juice. Along the way, she saw a vending machine just a short distance away from the emergency area. These vending machines are now full of goods, and many injured patients in the emergency area are using their mobile phones to scan codes to buy things. The things in Chongqing are really cheap. In our city, a bottle of orange juice costs hundreds of dollars. You still have Xiaochaihu granules. I'll buy a few more boxes. This stuff is in short supply right now. The injured in the emergency area were all talking about it. To be honest, a bottle of 1L orange juice was only 99.9, and a box of Xiaochaihu granules was only 66.6. At this time, they were really affordable. Someone bought orange juice, opened it, and took a sip. His eyes sparkled. "This is really good orange juice. It's all orange pulp. In this day and age, there is actually juice that is not diluted with water." Orange juice unknowingly became the cheap juice in the emergency area. Not long after, Huami received news that all her orange juice had been sold out. Tang Yu was dragging a truckload of oranges and taking the Fu out of the city, preparing to set up a stall outside the city. Huami quickly produced 100,000 orange juices and called the garrison supplies department, asking the people there to go to the underground garage next to the Lotus Xingxing supermarket to pick up the supplies. After finishing all this, Huami got into the nanny car and drove to her Lotus Xingxing supermarket. The road is now clear. The city clearance team has actually been working all the time, and there is a lot of work to do. The reason why they have no sense of presence in the front and only feel that Chongqing is full of rubble is because they are simply too busy to handle it. But this time when Huami returned to the city, she found that the main road from the city gate to the rescue center had been cleared by the clearance team. After Hua Jing's relative, a contractor, cleared the road in front of the Lotus Xingxing supermarket and connected it to this main road, Huami could drive directly from the rescue center back to the supermarket entrance. The fog was still very thick, covering the entire road and even the entire Chongqing in gray mist. Although the roads are clear, not many people dare to drive out in this kind of weather. If Huami hadn't worn goggles, she wouldn't have dared to go out while pregnant. In the thick fog, Huami drove all the way to the entrance of her supermarket. Along the way, many migrant workers wearing colorful goggles waved at her car. Huami responded by smiling all the way. When her car stopped at the barbed wire fence, Hua Jing and the contractor came over. "Miss Hua, From a distance, Jing raised his hand and greeted. I don't know if it was Huami's illusion, but Jing trotted over, as if he was in still water, and actually stirred up the gray mist around him, bringing up a white mist. The water vapor is so dense? Huami lowered her head, turned her palm upwards, and flicked it casually. It felt wet and sticky. No wonder Kaminghong said that recently more and more people have been sent to the emergency area due to respiratory distress. If the moisture in the air were a little thicker, people would be like drowning and would suffocate to death. She also felt the problem was serious. Fortunately, her respirators are produced in unlimited quantities and have already been supplied to garrisons, rescue teams, and medical staff. Miss Hua, why didn't you inform us when you came back? We could have arranged a welcoming ceremony for you. The contractor grinned with a mouthful of gold teeth. His big gold teeth had now lost their audience because he was wearing a respirator on his face. He was seen gesturing exaggeratedly. Here, we'll prepare a big red arch for you. Here, we'll have 2 rows of people welcoming you, holding plastic flowers in their hands. When you come, everyone will shout in unison, welcome, welcome, warm welcome. Hey, Miss Hua, why are you leaving? The contractor hammered the usually silent Jing and said, do you know how to curry favor with your boss? Why are you silent, Miss Hua? Miss Hua, wait for me. I'll carry your bag for you. The contractor hurriedly followed behind Huami, bowing and nodding, and serving her wholeheartedly. These days, the best way is to flatter the boss. Huami walked directly to the half-collapsed underground garage. She turned around and said to the contractor and Jing who followed her, you guys go ahead and do your work. If Chichuan's brothers come later, please help me entertain them. I'll go downstairs and take a look. Miss Hua, let me give you a flashlight. The contractor smiled and wanted to follow, but Huami waved her hand to stop him. With goggles, there is no need to use a flashlight. She stood at the entrance of the dark underground garage and took a look at the landslide inside. This is really a natural place to store supplies, but the rain is pouring into the garage. If the rain continues for a while, the underground garage will probably be flooded. Huami turned around and said to the contractor and Jing, think of a way to stop the water from flowing into this garage. Install lights inside and do some drainage to make it easier for Chichuan and the garrison to move the goods. I still have a lot of tarpaulins. You can use them to cover the outside of this garage to prevent water from seeping in. Use tarpaulin to prevent water seepage? The contractor has been working in construction all his life, and this is the first time he has heard of this kind of water seepage prevention. He patted his chest and said, don't worry, Miss Hua. I am a professional in waterproofing. Just leave this project to me. I promise to do a good job for you. Huami nodded, then lay another layer of waterproof tarpaulin for me on top of your anti-seepage project. Huami didn't care about this. An extra layer of waterproofing would provide an extra layer of protection for her warehouse. Okay, don't worry. The contractor stood at the entrance of the garage and watched Huami go into the basement. He bent over and shouted, Miss Hua, a lot of places inside have collapsed. Please be careful. Huami, who was already standing in front of a landslide, responded, avoided the sight of the contractor and Jing, and put the concrete beam in front of her into the recycling station in exchange for 0.000. She walked forward, collecting garbage, cement blocks, dented cars, and household waste along the way. Just asking Jing and the contractor to clean up the garbage would probably take half a month. The huge underground garage was quickly cleaned up by Huami, and all the waste was recycled into the garbage station, exchanging for a total of 1.5% energy. She stood in the empty underground garage, found a clean spot, and took out all the mineral water, tarpaulins, respirators, and orange juice that could be taken out of the level 11 storage. After finishing all this, Huami was about to go to the supermarket when she received a call from Chichuan in front of the wire gate. Sister Hua. Chichuan almost cried on the phone. Finally, the call got through. Sister Hua, it was not easy for me. What's wrong? I thought you were missing. You haven't been selling mineral water for a few days? Is business not good? Huami stopped and felt that there was a lot of noise coming from Chichuan's side. There seemed to be sounds of people shouting slogans and smashing glass. It's quite messy. I can't come over, Sister Hua. Chichuan shouted at the top of his voice on the other end of the phone. I'm in City A. It's a mess here. Medical supplies and food are in short supply. Our convoy wants to go to Shangqing, but all the roads outside City A are blocked. Before he could finish his words, a gunshot was heard. Huami listened to the familiar sound of chaos. She quickly walked into the supermarket, found a map, and spread it out. Where is City A? Sichuan. The road from City B to Shangqing is now open. If you can find a way to get from City A to Xiangbi Expressway, there will be my clearance team there who can take you back to Shangqing. City A is actually not far from the road she cleared. Before the end of the world, it was only an hour's drive away. These cities that are so close now seem to be separated by a chasm. Huami found City A on the map. She took out a marker and connected City A and Hunan B Expressway. Because the agricultural trade tycoon said he had a supply in City B and could get large quantities of frozen meat and a lot of live poultry. So Huami has been asking Hua Jing's relatives to do their best to clear the highway from Shangqing to City B these days. All the garbage cleared was piled outside Shangqing. She will collect it when she has time. Huami didn't care about other cities. She didn't have that much energy to clear all the roads in the world. Looking at the map, Huami asked Chi-Chuan on the phone, "Where is the clearance team in City A?" City A is short of medical supplies and food right now because the roads are blocked. As long as the clearance team can clear the roads and the supplies can get in, that will be great. Chi-Chuan was on the other end of the phone, leading his friends through a chaotic and angry crowd. If the garrison commander of City A had half the courage of our commander Gong of Xiang City, City A wouldn't be in such a mess. When the earthquake spread to City A was able to remain calm at first because many people ran from Shangqing to City A and City A was quite popular. Everyone worked together to encourage each other and help the A City rescue team save lives. But soon, the relief supplies could not keep up. At that time, the outside world also donated a lot of money to City A, but the money was stuck in the management system of City A. If the rescue team wants to use it, they need to report it layer by layer. People's hearts are complicated, especially when it comes to reports that require money. Just look at what happened when Kuminghong asked for funding from the Shangqing Management Headquarters. You stated your reasons, and I stated my concerns. You said you had an urgent need, but I don't think this matter is as urgent as that one. The SOS is here, and every second of delay means the loss of several lives. The rescue team soon had complaints because the relief supplies had not yet arrived. It's like a domino. If one piece falls, all of them will fall. The rescue team saved people on an empty stomach and waited every day for funds to come in to purchase supplies. But by the time the management system approved the funds, the road outside City A had already collapsed, and all supplies could not enter the city. It would be strange if City A was not in chaos. The biggest difference between Shangqing and City A is that from the very beginning, Gongyi grabbed all the money in his own hands. He doesn't need to get funding from the headquarters for anything he wants to buy. He also didn't have time to go to the management system to ask for funding again and again. Huami heard the gunshots from Chi-Chuan's side and frowned. You and your people should be careful and remember to bring the money back. Sister, what use is money at this time? Amidst the flying banknotes, Chi-Chuan led the group on foot out of City A, saying, "It's estimated that money will no longer be useful in Shangqing soon. We have to find a new way to survive." Akegawa was not making this up. Prices in City A were skyrocketing, so they dragged hundreds of thousands of bottles of mineral water here to sell at 10 yuan a bottle, and they were quickly sold out. Then these few days, I was trapped in City A and witnessed the chaos that began to fall into City A. Only then did they realize that the mineral water at 10 yuan a bottle was basically given away for free to City A. Because there is money everywhere on the street, from time to time there are crazy people who can't bear the pressure and throw money everywhere. It's just like scattering paper money for the dead. No, the money is still useful. Huami was afraid that Chi-Chuan would not bring back any money, so her end-world supermarket cashier system would have no income, and she would have no money to upgrade the factory. You must bring the money back, because if you want to buy something from me, you must use money. I won't recognize anything else. Hearing this, Chi-Chuan, who was leading the way, suddenly stopped. His friend behind him asked, "Chuanzi, what's wrong? Quick, pick up the money." Akegawa pulled over a backpack, bent over, and started picking up the scattered banknotes on the ground. City A is still in a frenzy. There are people on the rooftop who are about to jump off the building. They are holding stacks of money and scattering them everywhere. It's useless. It's useless, ha. A crazy laugh was heard, and a body fell from a high altitude, landing right behind Ikegawa and the others. The small group of speculators looked back, picked up Ikegawa, who was picking up money, and ran away. Chuanzi, you have to pick up flowers that are worthless. Hurry up and leave, quickly. Let me go, let me go. Sister Hua said she recognizes money. Let me go. Ikegawa's shouts were drowned out on the way out of City A. It was still cloudy and rainy in Xiangqing. Huami took a nap on the second floor of the supermarket. After getting up, she prepared to go to the emergency area. She made an appointment with Dr. Xian for a checkup today. As soon as I walked out of the supermarket, a line of characters appeared. Detection danger, the supermarket is about to be flooded. The flood came so soon? The supermarket was going to be submerged? She turned around and saw a ball of orange waves pressing over the roof of her supermarket. Oh my God! Huami remembered. These were the oranges she had not harvested. In just one night, the oranges ripened, fell, ripened, over and over again, and the cycle is now almost flooding the backyard of her supermarket. Fortunately, the disaster occurred at night, and Huajing and his colleagues had not yet come to work. Huami quickly rushed to the backyard and stuffed oranges into the level 11 storage as she walked. It is a bit slow to stuff the oranges one by one, but when there are too many oranges, you only need to store them in level 11 storage in a moment. I quickly dealt with the overwhelming oranges and successfully unlocked storage level 12, space 12 by 1. Huami tidied up the backyard of her supermarket again. All the messy gravel and other things were recycled, making the backyard much more spacious. She vaguely remembered that there was something she hadn't done yet. Oh, she still had 5 square meters of black land to settle. What kind of bad memory was this? How could she forget such an important thing? Huami hurriedly settled her own 5 square meters of black land in the backyard and planted rice. Given that there was only one orange tree on 1 square meter of black soil, it almost caused an orange disaster and flooded her supermarket. This time, Huami only dared to plant 1 rice seed on 5 square meters of black soil. Well, just 1 pill. After finishing planting the land, Huami looked at the Lottery X2 in the lottery pool and hesitated for a moment. Forget it. She didn't dare to draw. Just keep it. These lottery opportunities need to be stored for at least a month until the oranges have reached their growth period. After settling on the 5 square meters of black land, Huami drove the nanny car out of the iron fence and went directly to the emergency area of the rescue center. Xian Chiuru was indeed very tight-lipped. She took Huami for examinations along the way, and even the nurses didn't know what she was doing these examinations for. Even the vaginal ultrasound was performed by Xian Chiuru herself on Huami. They are 2 healthy little ones. The fetal heartbeat and embryo have come out. In the dark room, Xian Chiuru looked at the black and white screen in front of her, pointing at the 2 small commas on it, with a gentle smile on her face. These 2 little guys, one on the left and one on the right. You don't stay next to me, and I don't stay next to you. You have quite a personality. 2? Huami was shocked. No way. She had lived 2 lives. Either she didn't win, or she won twice. Did she stuff all her babies from her previous life into this one? Huami held the ultrasound report in her hand and looked down at the 2 small commas on it. I couldn't help but greet the 2 little guys carefully. Hi, nice to meet you. Please take care of each other in the future. Xian Chiuru, who was sitting opposite her and was writing down the essential supplements for her during pregnancy, couldn't help but burst out laughing. She had seen many expectant mothers and fathers look silly when they first saw their babies in their bellies, but she had never seen one as cautiously and carefully greet them as Huami did. Seeing Huami looking up at her, Xian Chiuru was filled with emotion. It's really rare. There are so few people who look forward to you like you do now. You make me feel like I've returned to the past. As she spoke, she quickly wrote down a few medicines to be used during pregnancy, handed them to Huami, and said, everything is fine. The progesterone level is within the target. Come for regular pregnancy checkups. Huami took the medicine list and glanced at it. A control panel appeared in front of her. She opened the level 12 warehouse, and the inventory of these medicines immediately appeared. They are all in that batch of medical supplies in the depression. Suddenly, there was a quarrel between a man and a woman outside the door. After a while, A man rushed into Xian Shiru's office, very excited. Seeing his posture, Huami quickly protected her flat belly, stood up, and moved aside. The man rushed to Xian Shiru's desk, picked up Huami's ultrasound report and medical record, and threw them at Xian Shiru. Huami's eyes darkened. Ah, her baby. What the Hades are you trying to persuade me to do? I've told you so many times that my wife needs an abortion, and you're still trying to persuade my wife to keep the baby. Are you a human being? The man pounded the table angrily and looked like he was going to beat Xian Shiru up. He walked around the table and was about to hit Xian Shiru, but was blocked by Huami, who was hiding aside. Get out of the way. The man stretched out his hand to push Huami, without holding back his strength at all. Originally, Huami didn't want to fight, so she kept hiding behind, but Xian Shiru's office was just a small cubicle. Where could a grown-up like her hide? If someone came to push her, she wouldn't be a pregnant woman. So why would she stand there and let others push her? Don't touch me. Pregnant women, don't touch me. Aoiwa. The man screamed like a pig being slaughtered and fell to the ground, holding his crotch, his face flushed red. Huami kicked the man hard. Xian Shiru quickly stood up, rushed out of the office, and shouted, "Nurse, come quickly. Someone is causing trouble here. Hurry." Outside the office, a woman with tear marks on her face and a slightly protruding belly was huddled by the door in fear, tears streaming down her face. The garrison arrived quickly, led by Chao Feng, who happened to be taking Dafu and Xiaofu to stock the vending machines in the emergency area. Seeing Huami bending over to pick up a medical record in the office, Chao Feng was surprised. "Sister Hua, what are you doing here?" Huami hid the medical records and the ultrasound report behind her and threw them into the 12th level storage. "See a friend? Dr. Xian is my friend." "Which? You which?" You which?" The man on the ground covered his crotch and looked at Huami with hatred. He already had a bad temper, and today he ran into a nosy woman. He now wanted to kill Huami. "Shut up." Chao Feng walked over and raised his head. The two guards behind him stepped forward and carried the man on the ground away. Then he turned to Xian Shiru and the crying woman and said, "What's going on? Tell me." The woman with a slightly protruding belly immediately burst into tears. The two had just been arguing outside. She said she didn't want to have an abortion because Dr. Xian said her baby was already big and difficult to abort. Moreover, she has panda blood. If she chooses to have an abortion under such circumstances, the consequences would be disastrous if something unexpected happened. At least the blood bank in Shangqing does not have any panda blood reserves. It is better to give it a try and give the baby a natural birth. The risk is much smaller than having an abortion now. But her husband insisted that she have the surgery because he simply could not afford a newborn in this situation. The woman felt that her husband didn't love her and disregarded her life, so she got angry with the man. This man doesn't want children, but he can't do without his wife's service in his life. He transferred all his anger onto Xian Shiru, thinking that his wife was unwilling to have an abortion because she listened to Xian Shiru. Huami was listening in the office and thought it was exaggerated. She tilted her head and asked the crying woman through Xian Shiru, "Are you seriously ill? This kind of man is obviously out of control. Don't you know what's going on now? Panda blood doesn't count. Her belly is so big. If your husband pushes her, there will be 2 deaths." The woman felt extremely aggrieved. Her eyes were red as she looked at Huami through Xian Shiru. "It was because he couldn't control his emotions that I didn't dare to provoke him. Do you think I don't know that the situation is special now? Woo-woo, my life is so miserable." Woo-woo. Xian Shiru, who was sitting between the 2 pregnant women, rubbed her forehead with a headache and was about to speak. Huami sneered again. "Cry, cry, cry. If it were me, I would have left this kind of man a long time ago. He can't tell right from wrong and is selfish. Ask yourself, from the beginning to the end, what does this have to do with Dr. Xian? Shouldn't she take your situation into consideration?" On the other side of Dr. Xian, the woman cried even louder. "I didn't expect that he would be so reckless. He wasn't like this when we were in love before." Woo-woo. Xian Shiru wants to speak. Huami slammed the table. "This kind of man should be beaten. If not, why keep him for the new year? He is so arrogant. If I don't teach him a lesson, He really thinks he is the boss. Woo-woo, woo-woo, woo-woo-woo, I can't win. Dr. Xian tried to speak again. Huami sneered, with heroic spirit, and waved his hand. Then divorce. If you can't beat a man who doesn't care about his wife's life for his own pleasure, then divorce her. If you divorce her, come to me and I'll find you a job. Woo-woo-woo, woo-woo-woo, then you can't go back on your word. The two pregnant women were on the left and the right. One was indignant and the other was crying, which gave Xian Shiru in the middle a headache. Dr. Xian simply leaned forward and asked Chao Feng, "Is the man okay?" Chao Feng looked at Huami and opened his mouth. How could he be okay? However, there was no need to bring up such things to upset Sister Hua. It's okay. We will deal with him. Now let's just end this matter. Sister Hua is a brave man. If it weren't for Sister Hua, Dr. Xian's life and property would be greatly threatened. After saying that, Chao Feng looked at the crying woman and asked her if she agreed. Yu Mingming nodded. She didn't care much about her husband now. Huami was right. This man treated her like this, totally disregarding her life or death. If he didn't leave her, would he stay for the new year? After getting her consent, Chao Feng didn't even bother to go through the formalities and directly announced that Huami could leave. Anyway, the garrison is not good at this kind of thing. It used to be the job of the police. The garrison has no idea whether the procedures are correct or not. Xian Shiru didn't expect the matter to be resolved so quickly. According to the previous procedures, she would probably be suspended and punished. But now it was so light that it made her feel unreal. Xian Shiru couldn't help but turn her head to look at Huami. It seemed that the garrison was just for Miss Hua's sake. Huami nodded towards Chao Feng, and just as she walked out of the emergency room door, Yu Mingming, with a slightly bulging belly, caught up with her from behind. Miss Hua, Miss Hua. Everyone in the rescue center knows Huami's name. There are not many people in Shangqing now. Most people who could escape from Shangqing ran away when the earthquake first started. Those who did not escape were moved to rescue centers or nearby areas one after another. Because only in the rescue center are 3 meals a day and 2 snacks provided. So when Chao Feng called Huami's sister Hua, Yu Mingming knew Huami's identity. Huami stopped and looked back at Yu Mingming. She panted and walked to Huami, her face flushed. Miss Hua, I'm sorry for what happened just now. Don't say sorry to me. The person you should really feel sorry for is Dr. Xian. Huami waved her hands. She was not hurt anywhere. To be honest, Xian Shiru was just speaking based on the facts. Although the world is not good, it is far from the point where people are starving to death. Now he is so impatient to force his wife to take the risk of having an abortion. I don't know what this man is thinking. Seeing Yu Mengming's red face, Huami sighed. She lowered her head and looked at Yu Mengming's slightly protruding belly. This kind of environment is very unfriendly to women, but everyone is trying to find a way. Whether it's Dr. Xian, Old Man Ku, or even Commander Gong, they are all trying their best to protect you. Then you have to fight for your dignity and not let these people down. You have to live a good life. She was speaking with all her heart, because she had never experienced the same thing before. So Huami couldn't understand it. It was the end of the world, so why would she still have a child? But the reality was like this. There were always various reasons, and once the child came, it couldn't be removed. The risk of getting rid of this child is much higher than the risk of giving birth to this child. Yu Mingming's child is at least 6 months old, and a 6-month-old baby is already fully formed. She herself has panda blood, so if something unexpected happens on the operating table, she will have to pay for it herself. Considering this aspect, Xian Shiru really considered it very comprehensively. And don't the current rescue centers provide 3 meals a day and 2 snacks for free? All the medical staff in the city were concentrated in the rescue center, working diligently and conscientiously. Gongyi surpassed the garrisons of all the cities and reacted immediately, even setting up roadblocks. There is also Kuming Hong, who lost all his hair just to buy a chance of survival for the injured in the emergency area. Aren't the efforts of so many people just to ensure that the people of Shangqing can survive? Huami looked at Yu Mingming sincerely and said, You have to believe that although the world is not as beautiful as before, it may not be as bad as you think. I also say this to myself. She had experienced a very bad world, so she felt that the world today was much better than in her previous life. Therefore, Women may not be incapable of giving birth to children and raising them well. To put it another way, if everything collapsed, wouldn't she still have her oranges to back her up? Thinking of oranges, Huami looked at her almost full level 12 storage and took out a bag of oranges from her large backpack. Here, I'll give you some oranges. It will give you more vitamin C, so that your children will be fair in the future. Yu Mingming was inspired by Huami and was very moved. She felt like she was injected with chicken blood. No, I don't want oranges, Miss Hua. You just said that I can come to you, and you can find me a job. Her face was red, and her eyes were red. She continued, I don't eat much, and I have a lot of supplies for pregnancy, which can ensure that I can finish the delivery and will not cause you too much trouble. Looking at her like that, she seemed afraid that Huami wouldn't want her. In fact, Yu Mingming was pregnant before the earthquake. She knew that she had panda blood and was afraid of any accidents. So she prepared everything she needed during the entire pregnancy, including some emergency medicines. She originally thought that these things would be useless, and she just wanted to seek psychological comfort. Little did I know that a few months into my pregnancy, earthquakes would suddenly start to occur frequently around the world. Huami nodded. You can work for me. I just happen to be short of people. But you also know that even my children work very hard. If you can't bear this hardship, I can fire you at any time. The RV supermarket was really too busy to handle the work, so the two injured soldiers, Chao Feng and Tang Yu, started taking part-time jobs. You can tell by the fact that Chao Feng has to manage discipline in the emergency area and also has to restock her vending machines. There is a real shortage of manpower. Yu Mingming was filled with joy. I can endure any hardship, Miss Hua. You may not know that I used to be a nurse. I worked as a nurse in a nursing home. Seeing Huami leading the way, Yu Mingming hurriedly followed, holding her belly, chattering. The elderly in our nursing home love me very much. As long as I am around, there is laughter everywhere. I'm afraid she's just too good at talking. Yu Mingming kept talking as Huami walked along, as if she was afraid that Huami would not want her. She chased Huami all the way to the outside of the RV supermarket. Xiaofu went to restock the vending machines. Chao Feng was in charge of the emergency area, and Xiaofu was in charge of all the vending machines in the rescue center. Fu was able to move, and he immediately started taking care of the 3 lifeguards together with the factory manager. Yirong had to wear a raincoat, greet customers, and weave mats all by herself.
Where are Tang Yu and Dafu? Huami took Yu Mingming to the outside of the RV and asked Yirong, who was busy inside. Yirong raised her head and glanced at Yu Mingming, hauling oranges in the basement garage. Huami had called them before and asked them to drag the oranges to the roadblock outside the city entrance to sell them. Then, Yirong looked at Yu Mingming's belly again and asked Huami, Who is this? I just met her in the emergency room. She was looking for a job, so I brought her back. Huami waved her hand and turned back to signal Yu Mingming, Look at me. What can you do here? Yu Mingming rolled up her sleeves, ran to the next bus, and began to take care of the 3 lifeguards with swift hands and feet. Not to mention, she seemed quite professional. After all, she was the top nurse in the nursing home. Huami had just turned around and hadn't even taken a breath after settling Yu Mingming down. I received a text message from Gong Yi. What are you doing in the emergency room? Are you sick? Huami, no, I just went to see a friend. Don't stare at me. There is no SOS outside the city. There have been fewer and fewer emergency rescue operations in Xiangqing recently because everything that could be destroyed by the earthquake has already collapsed. The fact that nothing was collapsed by the earthquake proves that the quality of the project is really up to standard. From now on, no matter how big the earthquake is, this kind of construction quality will not collapse. Therefore, the rescue team focused its main energy and time on searching for survivors outside the city. Gong Yi, how come there isn't? A large number of survivors are walking to Xiangqing, and there are always some unexpected situations on the way. But I've been promoted, so there are some things that I don't have to do in person. Can I buy you an orange? In fact, he had been notified early on about his promotion to the Xiangqing Garrison Command. A few days ago, he was still outside the city sending SOS messages because there was still some final handover work to be completed. Now that he is free, he has sent more messages to Huami. But asking Huami to eat oranges? Huami wanted to beat him to death. Huami, thank you, but it's not necessary. I'll treat you. I'll ask Tang Feng to bring you 666 kilograms of oranges. Congratulations on your promotion. 666. Gong Yi. At the city gate, Gong Yi was standing in the rain supervising the garrison repairing the iron gate. He took the time to lower his head, looking at his phone and smiling. Just then, Tang Yu came out dragging a truckload of oranges. There was a layer of plastic shell on Tang Yu's face, which was the reaction after the hemostatic gel solidified. He leaned on the driver's window and raised his hand to Gong Yi, boss. Sister Hua asked us to drag the oranges to the city gate to sell them. Originally, Tang Yu was worried that Sister Hua had bought too many oranges and would suffer a loss, but after arriving at the city gate, he felt relieved. There is not a single stall here, and there is absolutely no competitive pressure. Moreover, the garrison will give them the green light. There is a huge difference between setting up stalls inside the city and outside the city. Sure enough, Gong Yi waved his hand, and the garrison opened the newly built iron gate and let Tang Yu and De Fu out. After a while, when Tang Yu parked the truck full of oranges, he told Da Fu to start selling oranges with banners. He jumped down from the driver's seat, walked to Gong Yi, and took out 2 oranges. Boss, do you want some oranges? Gong Yi glared at Tang Yu fiercely and pointed at a mobile home next to the iron gate. Tang Yu looked over. A bright orange rolled out from the crack in the door. Roll, right into the mud. There is a QR code posted on the door of the mobile house, which is the public account of the rescue team. There was a note next to it, handle the garrison welfare oranges, guaranteed to be sweet, 9 yuan / each. Tang Yu was petrified. He was too naive. The reason why there was no competitive pressure outside the gate was because the garrison had set up their own stalls and did not allow anyone to set up stalls outside the city to steal the garrison's business. The next moment, Gong Yi patted Tang Yu's shoulder heavily. You also know that the brothers have had a hard time recently. Since your sister Hua asked you to come out and sell oranges, the boss will give you all the welfare oranges of the brothers now, and you can exchange some money for the brothers to live a better life. Look at what the garrison has been forced into. The heartless woman really was stuffing oranges into the garrison's supply warehouse every day. 100 oranges were simply too much for each person to finish. So these 2 days, the garrisons at the city gate have been secretly buying up oranges. This has seriously affected the discipline and style of the garrison. After Gong Yi discovered this, he asked them to pile the oranges in the mobile cabin. Any survivor who wanted to enter the city could just scan the code and take the oranges. The price is based on Huami's RV supermarket. Oranges cost 9.9 yuan per piece, which is considered affordable in the current environment. Tang Yu blinked in disbelief. The hand on his shoulder seemed to be the unbearable weight of his life. However, facing the boss's trusting gaze, Tang Yu still nodded and said, okay. Fortunately, oranges are not difficult to sell. There were also many people who traveled through mountains and rivers to come to Xiangqing. Especially after the Xiangbi Expressway was cleared, the survivors of the entire B city all drove to Xiangqing with their families. Someone stopped the car, pointed at the banner Da Fu had put up and shouted in disbelief. Hurry up and look, they really are like what they say on the internet in Xiangqing. You can buy oranges with money. There are also many posts about the prices of goods in Xiangqing posted online. Although there was a previous post saying that the medical supplies sold by the Xiangqing Garrison Material Office were as high as thousands. Not long after the post was published, the social trend changed. They went from scolding the Xiangqing Garrison to praising it. Really, right now, money is as cheap as paper. Anti-inflammatory drugs are available at thousands of dollars a pill. The medical supplies stationed in Xiangqing are capped at thousands of dollars, which is really the most affordable of the affordable. In the past 2 days, Xiangqing's oranges have once again become a hot topic. At the beginning, the oranges cost dozens of yuan each, and everyone was praising them. Let alone fresh fruits these days, ordinary people can't even see the shadow of any fruits, let alone oranges that cost dozens of yuan each. As long as it can satisfy their cravings, they are willing to buy oranges even if they cost several hundred yuan each. Later, The price of oranges dropped to 9.9 yuan each, which was simply unbelievable. People on the internet are praising Xiangqing like crazy. These oranges are so cheap, they can't be bad, right? The person in the car got out, looked at Dafu, and asked, "Oranges aren't poisonous, right? They won't kill you if you eat them, right?" Dafu was a very cheerful little boy. He peeled one and said, "Uncle, look, I'll give you a slice first." As he said that, he threw a slice of orange directly into his mouth. "It's okay. I'm not dead, I'm not dizzy, and I don't have diarrhea. What's the problem? Are you really alright?" The man standing in front of Daifuku waited for a moment in shock, hesitating whether to buy it or not. Next to him was a survivor who had come to Xiangqing. Before he even entered the city, he was already shouting anxiously, "I want to buy 1,000. Quick, where can I scan the code? My child has been thirsty for 4 or 5 days." Everyone swarmed over to the big truck and scanned the codes. In a short while, all the oranges that Tang Yu dragged out of the city were sold out. Dafu dragged a large trash can in his hand and shouted to the survivors who were eating oranges on the ground, "Help me. My sister doesn't allow littering. Put the orange peels in the trash can for my sister. I will blacklist those who litter. Don't buy oranges from me in the future." The child's voice was drowned out by the boiling noise of the crowd. More and more people gathered at the gate of Xiangqing, and when there are too many people, it is easy to get chaotic. Fortunately, Gong Yi is a ruthless person. He either doesn't set up obstacles, or if he does, he will make the obstacles the most stubborn. At the first checkpoint in Xiangqing, Gong Yi equipped the garrison with live ammunition. Some people bought oranges, carrying big and small bags of them, eating them while queuing to pass the customs. Someone whispered to Dafu, "Kid, are cars from city be allowed to enter here?" Cars can enter the city, but there is no gas in the city. Dafu didn't know much, but the palace garrison commander didn't say that cars were not allowed to enter. The city's oil supply had long been exhausted. According to gossip, all the oil in Xiangqing was bought up by Sister Hua, but no one has any evidence on this matter, and Dafu is unlikely to tell everyone about it. So, can you really use money in Xiangqing? What can you buy with money? Others were also asking quietly, but there was nothing they could do, as they had just arrived and were very nervous. Dafu thought about it and said honestly the cheapest thing right now should be oranges. The temporary rescue center provides 3 meals a day and 2 snacks, but the portions have been getting smaller recently. This is a very grim fact. Many people say that Xiangqing's material supply chain has been cut off and material trucks cannot enter Xiangqing. Of course, the same is true for other cities. Therefore, the food supplies needed by Xiangqing were never shipped from other cities. Rumor has it that the 3 meals a day and 2 snacks at the Xiangqing Rescue Center are a serious burden. We have now started eating the city's food reserves, so gradually, the food supply to the Xiangqing Rescue Center will become less and less. After hearing what Dafu said, the people around who came from City B secretly made a calculation in their hearts. It seems that Xiangqing is just like their City B. Material supply has become a big problem, and money is no longer money. An orange costs 9.9 yuan, and each one is as big as a fist. An adult can eat 2 of them as a meal. If there is a food shortage in Xiangqing, I will eat oranges with every meal 3 times a day, 6 oranges a day, which will keep me full and replenish my water. Well, after eating oranges, you can even have a lot of mineral water left over. At this time, Tang Yu called and asked the factory manager to drive another truckload of oranges out of the city and give them to Dafu to sell. Seeing the truck full of oranges, the survivors in City B shouted, "Then give me another 10,000 oranges and I'll scan the code right away." I want 20,000. They are rushing to stock up while Xiangqing is having a big sale on oranges. Stock up, stock up, stock up. In less than half an hour, another truckload of oranges was sold out. Tang Yu had to urgently adjust the goods. The oranges in the RV wall warehouse were emptied, and the oranges in the garrison material department were also urgently pulled out. Even the tangerines that the garrisons had placed in the mobile cabins at the city gate were taken out and sold. Huami has a lot of oranges, but the market demand is even greater. Finally, Tang Yu had no choice but to call Huami and ask her to quickly get the oranges out of the city to sell. At this time, Huami had already left the emergency area and returned to Lianhua Xingxing supermarket. After hearing what Tang Yu said, she couldn't help but laugh like crazy. Okay, have someone come to the underground garage next to my supermarket. There are plenty of oranges and water. Do you want mineral water? It's 5 yuan a bottle. I have plenty here. Tang Yu ended the call in silence and looked at Gong Yi, who was holding a telescope and looking at the survivors outside the iron gate. Boss, how many oranges and water did Sister Hua get? Where did she get the channels? The amount is so excessive that if they are sold this way, even if ordinary giants have a lot of oranges in stock, they will all be sold out. Even if there is still a lot of stockpiled goods, seeing the panic buying, people should at least have a sense of crisis and raise prices where necessary and limit quantities where necessary. But Sister Hua was not panicked and even felt vaguely happy. Gong Yi, holding a telescope, moved his cheeks. Don't ask questions that you shouldn't ask. Life is a rare opportunity for ignorance. Do you understand? There is something wrong with this woman, but Gong Yi is not stupid. But Gong Yi never asked so many questions. He treats Hua Mi with extraordinary patience and Buddhist attitude. Putting down the telescope, Gong Yi glanced at Tang Yu and spoke earnestly and with warning you, as long as you and our brothers are alive, it's good for no one to find out what happened to her. Tang Yu stood up straight immediately. I understand, boss. I will keep the secret for Sister Hua. Gong Yi raised his hand and patted Tang Yu's shoulder. He turned around, touching his shoulder to Tang Yu's, lowering his voice in a solemn tone. Don't let anyone touch her. Yes. A sonorous and firm voice rang out. Outside the iron gate, the survivors from City B had caused congestion at the entrance. Most people will be released into Xiangqing. As long as they have no criminal record, Gong Yi will not deliberately detain them. But it still couldn't keep up with the speed at which the survivors from City B rushed to Xiangqing. After a while, some people began to have respiratory distress. Someone shouted exaggeratedly, "People are dead! People are dead! Why are you garrisons blocking the road? Let us into the city! People are dead! Let us into the city quickly!" The heavy iron gate was made of high-quality steel produced by Garrison Heavy Industry. Even if someone drove an armored vehicle to hit it, it might not be able to be knocked open all at once. On the high ground inside the gate, Gong Yi frowned and picked up the telescope again to look. Behind him, a garrison said, "There weren't so many survivors the day before yesterday. I don't know who cleared the road between Xiangqing and City B, and all the survivors from City B came here. Before today, the most that Xiangqing had received were some seriously injured patients from various cities airdropped. There were also survivors from various cities who came here on foot, but they only came in small numbers and had never welcomed such a large number of survivors. These are the survivors of the entire city of B, all of whom came to Xiangqing with their belongings. We took the expressway. Fortunately, the mysterious roadblocker only cleared the expressway connecting Xiangqing to City B, otherwise the entire Xiangqing would be surrounded by the survivors from various cities. It was no big deal that the city was besieged. The key point was that Xiangqing alone could not afford the survivors of two cities. Just eating, drinking, defecating, and urinating can become a big problem. Gong Yi put down the telescope and said, "Close the gates. All survivors should set up tents outside the city and block the entrance to the city. Bring the Xiangqing management commander over to me." The garrisons under his command obeyed the orders, and the gates were closed in less than a minute. Before that, Dafu was carried into the gate by the garrison, and a truck full of oranges was also driven into the gate by the garrison. Of course, the survivors outside the door refused to give in. They carried oranges and swarmed to the iron gate, shouting that they wanted to go in. Gong Yi held up a loudspeaker, stood on the high ground, and shouted to the survivors in City B below, "Don't worry, you guys should eat and drink outside. I will talk to the management commander, and then make arrangements for you." After saying this, he didn't care how the people outside the iron gate howled, and waited for the Xiangqing management commander to come with a frown. At this time, the mysterious roadblock worker Huami was still lying on the supermarket counter, looking at the two babies on the ultrasound pregnancy test report. "Giggle," the agricultural trade tycoon called. It was agreed that he would deliver a batch of live fish to Hwami today, and Hwami's fish pond had already been dug. But his car was stuck on Hunanbi Expressway, and he couldn't move. This time it was not stuck by a mudslide, but by traffic. Hwami sat in the supermarket, looking at the ultrasound report, frowned and asked, "Didn't you say that you had frozen meat and live poultry in City B, so I cleared the road between Xiangqing and City B for you? How come the frozen meat and live poultry haven't arrived yet, and the road is still blocked?" Sister Hua, you also said that if I get stuck again, I'll call you and ask you to clear the way for me. Look at what this has caused." The two people, separated by a telephone line, sighed heavily. The initial wishes were all very good, just to let the garrison have meat to eat. But things turned out like this. The meat from City B didn't arrive, but the people from City B arrived first. Outside the supermarket, Hu Jing shouted loudly, "Miss Hua, I heard that Captain Gong closed the iron gate to Xiangqing City, and he was scolded by the people of City B." What? Hwami couldn't sit still any longer. She took out her phone and said to the agricultural trade giant on the other end of the line, "Just be patient, I'll find a solution." After hanging up the phone with the agricultural trade giant, Hwami put on her raincoat and walked out of the supermarket. She said to Hu Jing outside, "Notify the clearance team to go to City B." Hu Jing stood in the rain and was shocked. Go to City B? Why go to City B? Seeing Hwami walking quickly without looking back, Hu Jing hurriedly followed her and said to Hwami, "But the road out of the city has been blocked by Commander Gong." "It's okay. I'll go there by the garbage dump. I have something to do there too. Ask the tow truck team on Xiangbi Road to gather in City B." Hwami said as she jumped into the black nanny car parked outside the supermarket and threw a cartoon patch to Hu Jing. "Here's the universal signal connector for you. Call me if you have anything." Before he finished his words, the black nanny van rushed into the rain and fog, heading towards the garbage dump. Gong, he only had about 3,000 to 4,000 garrisons at most. It was impossible for them to join hands and surround Xiangqing without any blind spots. There is no need for a complete enclosure. Because all the roads around Xiangqing were collapsed by the earthquake, Gong Yi only needed to set up roadblocks on the only road available for vehicles to enter and exit. The garbage dump outside Xiangqing gathered all the garbage in Xiangqing, including the garbage that Hwami asked Hu Jing's relatives to clear out, all of which were piled here. No one would go in or out of Xiangqing through here because the road is blocked and too smelly. Hwami was driving, and before she even got close to the garbage dump, the faint stench in the air irritated her stomach lining. She quickly stopped the car, opened the toilet of the nanny car, and lay on the swivel toilet, retching for most of the day. At this moment, Hwami couldn't even tell whether this was her pregnancy reaction or the stink from the garbage dump in front. After her retching finally subsided, Hwami sat powerlessly in the small toilet, took out her cell phone, and called Gong Yi. "Hello? Boss, are you okay?" There was constant abuse on the other end of the phone. Gong Yi laughed softly. "I should be better than you. Your voice doesn't sound very good." Hwami said weakly, "I'm not kidding you. I did this. I'm sorry." She was responsible for her own actions. It was she who cleared the Hunanbi Expressway, and it was also she who caused Gong Yi to be scolded. She did not shirk her responsibilities. The agricultural trade magnate said he had a way to sell frozen meat and live poultry in City B, so I helped him get the connection. "You just cleared the way for him?" Gong Yi repeated Hua Mi's last words. He stood on high ground, holding a cell phone in one hand and a gun in the other, watching the two garrisons and the Xiangqing management commander coming over. Gong Yi gritted his teeth and asked, "Hwami, are you still drunk from that night? Does she know what she is talking about?" She said lightly that she opened the Xiangbi Expressway. There were mudslides everywhere outside the city, but she said it was possible, so she built a highway connecting the two cities. Guess what? Does Gong Yi believe it or not? Should he believe it? Yes, I have a clearance team that has been working hard these days to clear obstacles. Hwami explained perfunctorily, got up from the toilet floor, put on a respirator, and opened the car door. "Start recycling the trash you see on the roadside." Then he said to Gong Yi, "I have put a lot of oranges and water in the underground garage next to my supermarket. Ask Tang Yula to sell them and see if he can relieve your pressure. The survivors are only complaining about insufficient supplies and problems with food, drink, defecation, and urination. If you can survive in a place like City B, you shouldn't demand too high a living environment when you come to Xiangqing. Gong Yi took a deep breath, looked at the Xiangqing management commander who had approached, and asked Huami, "Okay, I'll let Tang Yu do it. If you're not feeling well, just take a rest. I'll come to see you after I'm done with my work here." After hanging up the phone with Huami, Gong Yi tilted his head, looked at the survivors outside the Iron Gate, and asked Yu Guanglin, "All the survivors from the entire city of B are here. Tell me, should I open this door or not?" Yu Guanglin, the commander of Xiangqing management, laughed and said, "The order of Xiangqing is still decided by Commander Gong. Why ask me about this?" Before he could finish his words, the gun in Gong Yi's hand was pressed against Yu Guanglin's forehead. He said angrily, "Yu Guanglin, don't play your management tricks on me. I won't accept it. Everyone is outside the door. My brothers can still hold on now. Let's try in a few days. You either die today or come up with a plan to properly resettle the survivors of City B. Respirators save lives." This is Huami's deepest feeling at this moment. Wearing a respirator produced in a level 9 factory, she stood in front of a garbage dump that was as high as a tsunami and as big as a lake, and took a deep breath. The air was fresh, as if she was in a forest oxygen bar, which reduced her morning sickness a lot. After the morning sickness stopped, Huami collected the garbage much faster. All I could see was large pieces of garbage disappearing from the garbage dump that was as wide as a lake. The energy bar of the level 9 factory increased by plus 1%, plus 2%, plus 3%, plus 15%. By the time Huami had cleaned up the entire garbage dump and created a 2-lane road, the energy bar of the level 9 factory had increased to 98%. You know, when Huami's factory is upgraded to level 9, the green energy bar becomes longer and becomes more and more difficult to fill. In other words, 98% of the energy bar means that a lot of materials can be produced. Many. Huami continued to clean up the garbage and charged the energy bar of the level 9 factory to 100% in one breath. Unlock the second level of the garbage recycling station and get a sweeping robot X1 when a lucky draw X1A row of prompts popped up, and Huami was surprised. Can this garbage collection also upgrade the recycling station? Does this mean that every time you recycle garbage and fill up the factory's energy bar, you can upgrade the garbage recycling station? What the Hades is this sweeping robot? Huami took out the sweeping robot from the recycling station from the level 12 warehouse. It was no different from any other sweeping robot bought online. She put the sweeping robot on the ground and was still studying it when the round sweeping robot made a few clang sounds, grew 4 thin legs, and ran towards the garbage pile nearby. It recycles garbage bit by bit in the mountains and seas of garbage dumps. Huami stood in the rain and looked at it. Pieces of paper were stuffed into its stomach, broken glass was stuffed into its stomach, and feces were stuffed into its stomach. A small sweeping robot seemed to have an infinitely large garbage bin, because the sweeping robot can only eat so much at a time. Huami looked at it for a while, but there was no time to clean up the remaining garbage. She also ignored the sweeping robot that was eating the garbage slowly. Just throw it into the garbage dump, turn around, get in the van, drive through the garbage canyon, and go straight out of the city. Along the way, recycle plastic bottles and convert energy to 0.0, recycle moldy bread, convert energy 0. 0 recycle plastic bags, convert energy 0.000. Although the energy is small, it can't stop you from brushing and brushing without stopping. Huami thinks this sweeping robot is extremely useful. Ordinary sweeping robots are not so diligent, nor can they eat everything. But she would like to call her sweeping robot the chosen one in the garbage recycling industry. Although people eat garbage slowly, they keep eating it. In the misty drizzle, a black nanny car was speeding on the national highway to City B. Huami walked very slowly along the way. Although this was a national highway, every 2 steps she would encounter a mudslide that had collapsed on the highway. Occasionally there would be various collapsed houses, and the road gave Huami a sense of vicissitudes. At this time, in Xiangqing Guanglin, under the gunpoint of Gong Yi, wrote furiously and came up with a plan on the spot to properly resettle the survivors of City B. His forehead was full of water, and he didn't know whether it was sweat or rain. After handing the plan to Gong Yi, Yu Guanglin took out a handkerchief from his raincoat and wiped the water off his forehead. Most of the buildings in the city have collapsed. We don't know if the remaining half will collapse. Let the clearance team clear a piece of open space in Xiangqing. People from City B can live in tents or their cars first. As for supplies, there aren't many in Xiangqing right now. We really don't have the ability to solve the food, drink, defecation, and urination problems for so many survivors in City B. Commander Gong, you have 10 billion in your hands. We all know that you have been purchasing supplies. What Yu Guanglin meant by this was that he wanted Gong Yi to take out the food from the garrison supplies department. Gong Yi glanced at him coldly. You think I don't dare to really kill you, do you? If a loaf of bread is divided into 10 portions, it can sustain a person for many days. But if you eat without a plan, you will soon starve to death. He had embezzled 10 billion yuan and also entrusted Huami to buy supplies for the Xiangqing garrison. But now less than 500 million of the 10 billion has been spent. Huami bought a lot of supplies, but how long will this chaotic situation last, and when will it end? Neither knows. No one can guarantee whether money can still buy things in the future. Nowadays, in many cities, money is no longer money. No one can say for sure whether the 10 billion will become a long string of numbers in the future. Gong Yi raised the gun and put it against Yu Guanglin's forehead again, with murderous intent evident in his eyes. It has only been a short time, and the garrison supplies have to be used. Have humans run out of ammunition and food to such an extent? If even the garrison supplies have to be used first, then in the days to come, the garrison's morale will collapse and they will die of starvation and thirst before all the survivors. Who will guarantee order? A city manager whose legs tremble when facing a gun? Or are there only a few police officers? I still have a way, I still have a way. Yu Guanglin's forehead was sweating again. He stood shivering in the wind and rain. Of course, if the garrison here can't bear the pain and bear some of the burden, we can only think of a way to contact the management of City B. City B should also have food reserves, but it's in a mess. At this time, the relevant person in charge is not at work due to an accident, so no one thinks of this matter. The administrative headquarters building of City B collapsed on a workday, so more than half of the entire management system was paralyzed. Naturally, there is no need to mention the issue of food reserves. In fact, every city has food reserves, and Xiangqing has quite a lot of them as well. If we can transport the food reserves in City B to Xiangqing, we will have more time to combine the strength of the two cities and resume production. Yu Guanglin seemed to have a brain that was turned on. When he wasn't passing the buck or trying to trick Gong Yi, his IQ was still pretty good. He just said, Commander Gong, if you let me go, I will immediately summon all the administrators of Xiangqing's management level to find out the location of the food reserves in City B. Okay, you find the location, and I'll contact the garrison commander of City B. After seeing Yu Guanglin off, Gong Yi called Huami. It was quite quiet on her end, with only the sound of rain. Where? Gong Yi frowned. Where have you been again? I'll go to City B to help you solve the problem. Huami answered very straightforwardly. There was another pile of mud ahead, and the car definitely couldn't pass through. She could only get out of the car and continue to recycle the mud into the garbage station. She didn't know how many times she stopped and walked along the way. Gong Yi's sword-like brows furrowed even more tightly. What problem can you solve? Come back quickly. After a pause, he raised his gun and asked again in disbelief. How did you get out of town? The only lane out of the city was blocked by him. How did Mi get out of the city? Go through the garbage dump and go around to the national highway. Huami collected the mountain of mud in front of her and put it into the garbage station, then turned back and continued driving towards City B. Okay, I won't talk to you anymore. I'm so busy here.
I'm busy clearing obstacles.
After saying that, she hung up Gong Yi's phone impatiently. This man is good in every way, except that although he is a career-oriented person, he is a bit fussy. After hanging up the phone with Gong Yi, Huami called Chi Chuan again. Chuanzi, where are you guys? In the drizzle, Ikegawa and his friends, each carrying a large bag of banknotes, used mountain bikes to carry several sacks of banknotes and were struggling to trek towards Hunan-B Expressway. We are almost at the Hunan-B Expressway. There are still a few kilometers to go. Oh my god, this road is really difficult to travel. Chichuan shouted at the top of his lungs. He felt something was strange because they had no cell phone signal at all during their previous journey. Why is Sister Hua's voice so clear now? Don't go back to Xiangqing. I'm on my way to B City. Go to B City and help me sell oranges and water. Huami briefly explained her plan. Anyway, Chichuan and his friends can go back to Xiangqing now. The entire Xiangbi Expressway is blocked and the traffic conditions are quite complicated. There is no difference between them selling supplies in City A and selling supplies in City B. Chichuan agreed immediately and turned around. His eyes were so wet from the rain that he couldn't open them. He could only squint and say to his friends who were dragging sacks behind him, Sister Hua asked us to go to City B. She dragged some oranges and water to sell in City B. Let's go to City B. The friends immediately took out a wet map, gathered together, determined the direction, and immediately headed towards City B. It is closer to City B from their location than to go directly to Hunan-B Expressway. But Huami still arrived in City B before them. She drove the nanny car all the way to City B. The decadence of City B was even worse than that of Xiangqing. In Xiangqing, there are still a few tenacious buildings standing still, but the entire city of B was shaken to pieces. There is no intact house. There were cars on the road, driving out of the city and heading towards Xiangqing. Huami simply parked the car next to a pile of ruins and waited for Chichuan and the others in the nanny car. The rain outside was hitting the car window. Huami pulled up her shoulder-length hair and pinned it on top of her head with a big clip. She got up and cooked some noodles in the kitchen area of the car. After thinking about it, she added 2 eggs to the noodles. She ate noodles with 2 kids and an egg each. On the muddy road outside the window, cars from City B were dented by the earthquake, but they were still tenacious and passed by her car one after another. Huami was not in a hurry. After she was full, she had a good sleep in the nanny car. A few hours later, Chichuan and others appeared outside Huami's nanny car, covered in mud and water. Let's get started. Huami stood up and stood at the door of the nanny car. The moment she opened the door, a car full of oranges rushed out from behind her and hit Chichuan all over. There are too many oranges. Please sell as many as you can. Huami smiled and looked at Chichuan, who was almost knocked down by Zhu Lang, with some embarrassment. The orange was still rolling out, and behind Ikegawa, his friends, who were in a mess, widened their eyes in shock. Someone picked one up secretly, and, without caring whether there was mud on the orange peel, he just broke it open and started eating it. I'm so touched. They never had a full meal in City A. They traveled through mountains and rivers all the way, and were so thirsty that they could only drink rainwater. Now I have such sweet and juicy oranges to eat. I am so happy. Before everyone had finished being moved, a car stopped on the side of the road, seemingly observing the nanny van and the oranges on the ground beside the car. A man got out of the car and looked hesitantly at the oranges on the ground. You have so many oranges. Are you selling them? Sell, of course. Ikegawa reacted and immediately started selling oranges with his friends. The price is the same in both cities, 9.9 yuan each. Because Xiangqing's oranges have become a hot topic online, everyone in City B knows the price. Oranges cost 9.9 yuan each, and in Xiangqing, you can get as many as you want. However, without going to Xiangqing, I was very surprised and touched that I could buy oranges at this price at the gate of City B. The man who was driving turned around and ran back to the car and asked the woman in the passenger seat, "Honey, how much savings do we have?" "Hundreds of thousands, what's wrong?" The woman propped her head up and looked at the nanny car outside the car. The man pondered, "Are we going to Xiangqing? Let's not go there yet. Let's take out the money, buy tens of thousands of oranges, and sell them in the city." City B is very big. They came out of City B and know the situation inside. Many people went to Xiangqing, but there were also quite a number of people who had no cars, and their cars were crushed under the rubble. so I could only walk to Xiangqing. Some haven't even left the city yet. It happened that their car was quite big, so they bought tens of thousands of oranges and sold them along the way into the city. They didn't sell them at a high price. I bought them at 9.9 each, and they sold them at 10.9 each. If I don't just resell it, I'll make tens of thousands of dollars, right? The woman in the passenger seat hesitated. What if it can't be sold? If you can't sell it, you can eat it yourself. The man seemed to be very angry. At this moment, he would sell anything as long as it was edible. The money in City B is no longer money. What is it? It is paper. It's a string of numbers in the phone. He said to his wife, "Listen to me, honey. The money in Xiangqing is still useful. We have hundreds of thousands of dollars in our hands. I'm afraid we won't be able to buy much supplies in Xiangqing. We might as well double it and take a chance before going to Xiangqing." The woman thought about it and looked back at the child sleeping in the safety cradle behind the car. She nodded. "Let's do this. Fill the trunk first." Their car is not big, just a city SUV, and the trunk certainly cannot hold tens of thousands of oranges. But the man was diligent. He dragged the oranges in the trunk and planned to return to City B to find a proper place to store the oranges. As a result, the oranges in the trunk were sold out before the place was found. The man, his wife, and the child in the safety cradle in the back car hurried out of the city. Along the way, the woman was still complaining, "The roads in City B are not smooth. Why are there so many people buying oranges?" It was really exaggerated. They were dragging a trunk full of oranges, and they were less than a kilometer away from Huami's nanny car, but they were already shouting out their wares along the way. Immediately, a group of people gathered around to buy oranges. If they were selling so well, wouldn't the oranges in the nanny car be sold out quickly? Yes. No matter how many oranges there are, the demand is huge. When the couple drove to the gate of City B, the road there was already blocked. Ikegawa and his friends tried their best to sell oranges, but they were still far from meeting the demand. Even if the oranges on the ground were covered in mud, no one cared. 9.9 What if an orange is covered in mud? Xiangqing's oranges have no flaws, they are sweet and juicy, and there is not a single bad fruit. No landmines at all. Looking at the people from City B gathering together, Ikegawa looked worriedly at the nanny car that was almost empty. He looked up. Where was Sister Hua? Chi Chuan quickly handed the scene over to his friend, squeezed out of the crowd, and walked to the periphery to call Sister Hua. The call was quickly connected, and Chi Chuan asked anxiously, "Sister Hua, where are you? The oranges are all sold out. If we go down like this, we won't be able to get out at all." He is not exaggerating. Look at this nanny car. It is surrounded by 3 layers of defense inside and outside. It is good enough that people can get out, but the car definitely cannot get out. By then, their cars wouldn't be able to move much, so they would have to walk back to Xiangqing. Inside City B, come here. On the phone, Huami's voice was very calm, asking Chi Chuan to keep going forward. There are broken walls and ruins everywhere in City B. Some cars are buried in the rubble and no one knows where the owners of the houses and cars have gone. Some cars were in good condition, but the roads in front and behind were blocked and they couldn't get out. Chi Chuan ran all the way, bypassing the deserted streets, and just saw Huami wearing a raincoat and flat-heeled boots, standing cleanly on the gravel street. He ran over, hurriedly urging Sister Hua, "We have to leave quickly. I think all the survivors left in City B have gathered around the nanny car. If they can't buy oranges, we will be beaten to death." Ikegawa is quite experienced. This happened in City A. Because they could not buy water, the survivors gathered around and vented all their anxiety and worries, as well as their dissatisfaction with the management system on Ikegawa and others. Otherwise, how did their car heading to City A get lost? Because he couldn't drive out of the angry crowd, he had to abandon the car to save people. Huami stood there without moving, her hands in the pockets of her raincoat. She looked at Chi Chuan and smiled. She turned her head and motioned Chi Chuan to look over there. The fog in City B is just as heavy, with visibility no more than 10 meters. Due to the terrain, the water vapor concentration in the air is slightly lower than that in Xiangqing, and no one has suffered from respiratory distress so far. But it will be soon. Chichuan looked in the direction Huami pointed and saw a mountain of oranges lying in a depression in the mist, piled up high. Compared to the small nanny car, it is much bigger. He widened his eyes in shock and didn't react for a long time. Sister Hua, when were so many oranges transported to City B? While you're drawing fire from the survivors. Huami smiled and pointed to the mountain of respirators and mineral water in the corner of the ruins. Sell it and attract all the survivors heading to Xiangqing back. Oh! Ikegawa let out a cheer and rushed towards the piles of supplies. He liked the feeling of embracing everything and making a fortune every day.
Ha ha ha.
Seeing Chichuan start to call his friends to come over, Huami called Chichuan, Chuanzi. Ikegawa in front turned around and saw a bag flying towards him. He caught it reflexively and heard Huami laugh. It contains a universal signal connector. You and your friend will each have one. This will make it easier for you to communicate in the future. She has always been generous to those who work for her. When Ikegawa took out a chibi Maruko-chan patch from the bag, he looked up at Hanami in confusion. She had turned around and her figure disappeared into the rain and fog. The clearance team composed of Hu Jing's relatives had already arrived outside the city, but was blocked at the gate leading to City B. They could only drag their small garbage trucks and move into the city little by little. Huami had to hurry to meet them. At this time, inside Xiangqing, Yu Guanglin, under the gunpoint of the garrison, gathered all the Xiangqing administrators, racked their brains, and finally found out the location of the logistics department in City B. Facts have proved that as long as everyone does the job with heart, the efficiency is still very high. After getting the location, Gong Yi took a small garrison and prepared to leave the city. He divided the Xiangqing garrison into 3 parts. The largest part stayed in Xiangqing to maintain stability, and about 1,000 garrisons joined the rescue team, responsible for rescue inside and outside the city. He went to City B with only 50 garrisons. Chao Feng and Tang Yu both rushed over. They both had injuries on their bodies, and the membranes on their faces were beginning to peel off and looked like they were about to fall off. I don't know what the 2 of them looked like after they fell off, but in this state, they definitely can't follow Gong Yi to carry out the mission. Chao Feng said anxiously, "Boss, the checkpoint is completely blocked now. How are you going to get out? It is really too difficult. In Xiangqing, you can't go out without wearing a respirator. The heavy water vapor has caused breathing difficulties for many people. Fortunately, Sister Hua had enough respirators in stock. She had a whole basement garage full of respirators, water, tarpaulins, and oranges." Gong Yi assembled the gun in his hand and put on a raincoat over his combat uniform. "Go to the garbage dump." Garbage dump? Tang Yu and Chao Feng looked at each other in bewilderment. How could they get out of the garbage dump? Not to mention humans, even ghosts wouldn't go there. Gong Yi, who had already packed up, turned around and patted Tang Yu and Chao Feng on the shoulders. "Okay, you 2 take care of Xiangqing. I'm going to go to B City to get supplies. And to bring back a certain woman who was wandering around." After saying that, Gong Yi didn't waste any time. He took his fully armed team and drove the garrison armored vehicle all the way to the garbage dump. On the way there, Gong Yi received a call from the garrison headquarters. As soon as the call was connected, the person on the other end started cursing. "You put a gun to Yu Guanglin's head? Did you also pry open the Xiangqing armory? You want to kill me, don't you? How dare you break into the armory without reporting it? Where are the armored vehicles? Why are you driving 10 armored vehicles out for a stroll?" The sound was too loud, so Gong Yi moved the phone further away, his eyes still fixed on the map, refusing to admit it.
Who reported me? What?
The Xiangqing armory was pried open? This must be the case of the thief crying, "Stop thief." "Please stay calm at your headquarters and tell me who reported me. I'll find out and call you back. Hello? The signal is bad." Gong Yi hung up the phone at headquarters. Sitting in the armored vehicle, I looked up and saw the mountain of garbage in front of me, as if it had been split in half like someone splitting the sea. The 2-lane road in the middle, although full of mud, seemed exceptionally flat compared to the bumpy mountain of garbage. Is this something a human can do? The deployment of armored vehicles, please ask Gong Yi for instructions. "Boss, shall we go?"
Pass.
Although the scene in front of her was a bit strange, if Huami could get through it, why couldn't Gong Yi? This allowed the fully armed Gong Yi to pass outside City B. Gong Yi. The smoothness of the process made him feel weird. There were no roadblocks caused by mudslides on the road. Although there were some small fallen rocks, they were not a big problem for armored vehicles. It was obvious that the road ahead had been cleared. But just outside of City B, Gong Yi's armored convoy was blocked by traffic. Someone stationed on the communicator said, "Boss, the survivors on the Hunanbi Expressway are flowing back to City B. Boss, someone is selling oranges, respirators, and mineral water at the entrance of City B." Needless to say, this must be Huami's work. Huami and Gong Yi arrived in City B one step ahead and had already started to resell supplies in City B. Gong Yi narrowed his eyes slightly, lowered his head, took out his cell phone, and called Huami. "I'm outside of City B. Where are you?" "I'm clearing the road. You do your thing and I'll do mine. I'll call you when I'm free." On the other end of the phone line, Huami seemed very busy and had no intention of meeting Gong Yi at all. After she finished speaking, she simply hung up the phone and took her tow clearance team with her to clear the long street in City B bit by bit. The towing team arrived a little faster than Gong Yi because they were originally on the Hunanbi Expressway. At Huami's request, they had nothing else to do every day and towed a small garbage truck, driving back and forth to clear the gravel on the ground. Everyone was gathering in City B. Someone asked curiously, "Miss Hua, why don't we help Xiangqing's management system clean up Xiangqing? Instead, why are we coming to City B to help clean up City B?" Some people found it puzzling before that instead of clearing the obstacles inside Xiangqing, the police went outside Xiangqing to clear the Xiangbi Expressway. However, since they were all relatives of Hujing and were all begging for food under Huami, no one said anything. Although I was curious, it was just curiosity and I didn't dare to have any opinion. Huami waved her hand and looked at the devastation of City B with a serious expression. "You have a narrow vision. Isn't City B our home? If you don't sweep City B, how can you sweep the world?" You see, although City B also has its own tow removal team, and they are professional, the will of City B's tow removal team is weak and they soon collapsed in the chaotic world. Such a broken city can only become better with the help of our amateur tow removal team. How great you are. They just want to make a living, so we can't have too high expectations of their awareness. But after Miss Hua said so much, what else could everyone say except applauding? Then Huami said, "You have cleared all the roads in City B, whether it is the streets or the alleys, and you have thrown all the garbage into the City B garbage dump. I'm going over there to take a look now." After giving the instructions, Huami ran away quickly. After tasting the sweetness of success at the Xiangqing garbage dump, Huami also set her sights on the garbage dump in City B. Before going to the B City garbage dump, she had to use up all the energy in her level 9 factory. So, Huami was frantically clicking on the control panel of Apocalypse Supermarket all the way. Mineral water, tarpaulins, respirators, orange juice, all produced at X100,000. Feeling that the energy consumption was not enough, Huami simply spent money to upgrade the level 9 factory to a level 10 factory. Level 10 factory. Water bottles, all specifications. Mineral water, all specifications. Waterproof tarpaulins, all specifications. Self-priming filter type anti-particulate respirators, all specifications. Orange juice, specification 1L. Ethanol limited production. Painkillers X60,000. Sterile gauze X50,000. Hemostatic gel X40,000. Goggles X30,000. Condoms X20,000. Semi-finished pickled fish X10,000. Seeing this limited production category, Huami was so moved that she just wanted to cry. Finally, I gave her some help. The semi-finished pickled fish was just right for her as a pregnant woman to nourish her body. She made all X10,000 copies, took a pack out from the level 12 storage, and looked at them as she walked. It's a big bag of pickled fish, vacuum-packed, with all the sauces and soup packets. You just need to find a pot to heat it up, and you can eat it. Otherwise, why not find a place to park a nanny car, heat up the pickled fish, and eat before working? Thinking of this, She climbed up the ruins, looked around, and pushed open a broken door. The door was pushed open and Hwami was stunned. God, a room full of kids. The children in this room were all covered in black, with messy hair covered in dirt. Suddenly, a stranger broke into their dark world, and they all curled up into a ball. Just like an abandoned kitten, he opened his innocent and ignorant eyes and looked at Hwami warily. A gun was pressed against Hwami's lower back. "Don't move." Hwami didn't move. She asked in a low voice, "What's going on? Why are there so many children here?" The man behind her did not answer her, but reached out and snatched the pickled fish from her hand. After a while, the man asked in a low voice, "Who are you? What are you doing here?" Although his tone was cold, there was no obvious malice in it, nor was it fierce. Hwami asked, "I came from City A to sell supplies. Why are there so many children here? Why don't you go buy supplies?" Before she met the clearance team, she knew that the survivors of the traffic jam on Hunanbi Expressway were moving towards City B one after another. In City B, the survivors who could not walk or had no car to leave had already gathered at the city entrance and rushed to buy supplies. There really shouldn't be so many hungry children here. Looking at those pairs of eyes filled with innocence and fear, Hwami smiled slightly. Suddenly, she turned around and grabbed the wrist of the man holding the gun behind her. The next moment, a kitchen knife appeared from nowhere and was held in Hwami's hand. She placed the kitchen knife across the man's neck and smiled awkwardly. "I wanted to be more heroic, but I only have this kitchen knife in my hand. I feel comfortable talking like this, so let's talk like this." "I'm sorry." Hwami doesn't like being talked to with weapons pointed at her. She feels like she can't have a good conversation this way. She likes to chat with a knife on someone's neck. Yang Honglin had never expected that a woman would hold a knife to his neck. His eyes darkened, and he pursed his lips with a hint of sarcasm. "People from City A come to us to sell supplies?" The roads in City B are blocked. For such a large city, the distance between the south and the north seems to span mountains and seas. Moreover, there is no signal in City B now. At the end of the street, you can't even tell what's happening on the street. What's more, this place is on the edge of a garbage dump, and no one would deliberately come here to tell them that there are people from City A selling supplies at the city entrance. Why can't people in City A come to you to sell supplies? Don't you know that City A has abundant supplies? Hwami squinted at the skinny children in the room and said, "Tell me, why are you a police officer here? What are you going to do with these children? What can I do with them? These are orphans. No one cares for them. If no one cares for them, then I will." Yang Honglin took 2 steps back and put away the gun in his hand. A few days earlier, he learned from his mobile phone that medical supplies in Xiangcheng were being sold at sky-high prices. But during this period, as the power storage of his mobile phone was exhausted, the power banks he found ran out of power one after another, and his access to the internet became intermittent, until the signal in City B was completely destroyed. Yang Honglin was completely in the dark. He didn't want to find out what was going on outside, but these kids kept him from leaving. Every day after going out to look for supplies in the ruins and garbage dumps, I had to hurry back to take care of the children, and I had no time to care about what was happening in Xiangcheng. Seeing this, Hwami did not threaten with the knife. She put the knife away and took 2 steps back. After Hwami found a place to sit down, she said to Yang Honglin, "Did the parents of these children die in the earthquake?"
Yang Honglin nodded silently.
His police uniform was already dirty and messy, and he looked much more relaxed and gentle. According to him, City B had been in chaos a long time ago, and the situation was much more serious than that in City A. The garrison in City A did not respond in a timely manner, and the garrison commander lacked courage. From the very beginning, there was no garrison in City B. When the chaos broke out, no rescue team was sent out, so the police in the city temporarily acted as the rescue team. But the police were just a handful of people, and they were busy with rescue operations, so no one was caring about the situation in the city. The entire urban environment quickly fell into disorder. At that time, Yang Honglin was the only police officer responsible for taking care of the children rescued from the earthquake. This care continues until now. They didn't originally live near the garbage dump, but moved here gradually. Because only at the garbage dump can you find something to eat. Hwami glanced around at the children and asked Young Honglin, there are no police officers in your city B anymore, so why don't you leave? You can still survive if you leave alone, and don't worry about these children. No one can tell exactly how the police disappeared. There are a few policemen in Xiangqing now, but as more and more people left Xiangqing at the beginning, all the people in Xiangqing ran to the rescue center to set up tents. There are only garrisons in Xiangqing, and the police presence is getting lower and lower. But the profession of police in City B did not disappear naturally, but most of them died in various rescue operations. As communications were cut off, perhaps a small number of police officers survived, but City B was too hopeless, and the few police officers followed the survivors and set out for Xiangqing. Yang Honglin scratched his hair anxiously. I can survive, but these children will die. Children here is only a few months old and is being looked after by the older children. The oldest child is less than 10 years old. They grew up in a peaceful and happy world. How could they have experienced such misery? If he left, he could live, but how would these children live? A heavy and depressing atmosphere echoed in the broken house. Hwami held a kitchen knife in her hand and stood there for a while, looking at the room full of children. According to her experience, after continuous natural disasters and man-made tragedies, out of billions of humans, only 1 million will survive in the end. It's a miracle to survive, but it's normal not to survive. She was as hard as iron, but she still pointed Yang Honglin in a direction. Here, did you see that? Take the child and go in that direction. Find a man named Chichuan. He's selling supplies there. You can buy them by scanning the QR code with money. Money? It is the least valuable thing now. Yang Honglin can make money no matter what. Hwami turned and left the shabby house. Before leaving, she took out a large bag of oranges from her big bag and put it on the ground, then left in silence. Yang Honglin glanced at the bright oranges on the ground, chased after Hwami, and asked, Are you serious? What were you doing at the garbage dump? Hwami didn't look back or answer him, and continued walking forward. Yang Honglin asked again in a hoarse voice, What's your name? We met by chance, call each other whatever you want. She walked very quickly, and soon her figure disappeared into the garbage mountain. Hwami didn't take this episode to heart. People like Yang Honglin are rare, but they are not the only one in the apocalypse. In the last days, such people are the kind who die quickly but do not live long. They have good hearts but lack the ability. If Hwami meets her, she will help if she can, but it's okay if she can't help her. She just felt it was very strange. According to what Yang Honglin said, the garrison in City B should not have appeared at all. So where did the garrison in City B go? Her level 10 factory quickly ran out of energy under her attack, and Hwami did not delay. After she was out of Yang Honglin's sight, she began to produce materials and recycle garbage at the same time. Collect the oranges, by the way. He also called Gong Yi and told him about his encounter with Yang Honglin. Gong Yi was silent for a while on the other end of the phone. I have contacted the garrison in City B. The garrison commander is dead. He shot himself. The earthquake in City B occurred during the day on a weekday. The management headquarters building collapsed. The entire management level of City B was paralyzed immediately. No one reported the disaster to the higher-ups. Without orders, the garrison would not move easily. The commander of the B City garrison waited for 24 hours, but the garrison headquarters had not given him any instructions. By the time he realized what was happening and wanted to act on his own, the city was already littered with corpses. His parents, wife, and children were also killed in the aftershocks. The commander of City B couldn't bear it anymore and chose the easiest and quickest way to end his pain. The garrison in City B is now in a state of disarray, and no one knows what the situation is. It remains to be seen by Gong Yi himself. Hwami stopped recycling the garbage and didn't know what to say for a moment. Hwami cleared her throat, stood in an empty garbage pit, and asked Gong Yi on the other end of the phone, You are lucky to have received a call from the garrison headquarters as soon as possible. She still remembers that during the first earthquake, her supermarket was buried in rubble. It took less than 10 hours for the rescue team to open the door of her supermarket. When the Xiangqing garrison had not yet moved, he led the rescue team. So now the garrison headquarters is very annoyed with him because he has done too many things on his own. If these things that he did on his own were printed out on A4 paper, they would probably circle around Xiangqing. Huami was delighted when she heard this. Okay, big brother, keep it up. I support you. When your crime is exposed and the garrison headquarters wants to execute you, I will come to the execution ground. Who would believe you if you were so smiling? You have no credibility in my eyes. On the phone, Gong Yi glared at Huami and asked, Where are you? Come with me to find the supply depot in City B and see for yourself. No, I want to be the street cleaner of City B and clean up all the garbage in City B. Huami didn't want to join in the fun, as she couldn't put the supply warehouse found by the garrison into the level 12 storage in public. It's boring. She should just recycle the garbage and produce supplies from the level 10 factory. Huami continued to move, recycling garbage while opening a level 10 factory to produce supplies. The small sweeping robot placed in the Xiangqing garbage dump continues to eat garbage and has no way of keeping up with Huami's consumption. Unlock storage level 13, space 13 by 1. When a lucky draw X1 remaining lucky draws X5 because of the crazy large amount of production materials in a short period of time, plus each harvest was 1 million oranges.